NBC poll was not as dire as the ABC poll, but here's Steve Karnacki going through some of their numbers, and they're not very good for the sitting president.
This is a simple question of job approval. Barely 40% approve of Joe Biden's performance. One big area, no surprise, it is the economy. Look at this contrast. This is April of 21, months after Biden took office. Nearly half the country was satisfied with where the economy was. Then, now, barely 1 in 4 Americans satisfied with the economy. There's also this. We found an enthusiasm gap between the two parties. We ask folks on a scale of 1 to 10, how enthusiastic are you about the presidential election? And you can see Republican to Democrat, there is a gap right there. Where's the lag for Democrats? We found a couple places. Non-white voters, you can see significantly less enthusiastic than white voters. And then how about this age gap? The youngest group of voters who Democrats have been trying to get excited and motivated, nearly 50-point gap there. And the problem for Democrats, too, the lack of enthusiasm about the election, there's clearly a lack of enthusiasm about the president himself, because we asked primary voters on the Democratic side, do you want options next year besides Biden? 59% said yes, they do. This is not a normal number for an incumbent. What else concerns Democrats? And I think this gets to sort of the elephant in the room here. Biden's age and fitness. I mean, look at this contrast. We have talked so much about Donald Trump, the indictments, the legal woes. They are clearly a major or moderate concern to the majority of Americans. But Biden's age and fitness for office, almost 3 out of 4 in our poll. This is Democrats, Republicans, independents say it's a major or moderate concern for them. How about Trump? He's only a few years younger than Biden. A full 27-point gap right there. This is looming as a major problem for the president, too.
Well, I'm telling you, if the warning signs for Democrats were not flashing before, they are now. I mean, the weekend polling numbers and some of the things that were said on the weekend talk shows. Well, it's clear that the Democrats are looking at their candidate and, well, they're just freaking out. I'm going to see how many times I can go to that well. 3 times is generally the rule, in comedy, the rule of 3s.
Now we're there.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, anyway, really ugly. The enthusiasm, I don't know, because he was showing pictures, and on TV this all works a little better, but the enthusiasm gap, Republicans are much more enthusiastic about voting for Donald Trump than Democrats are about voting for Joe Biden. I was talking about this. I gave a speech last week, and I was talking about this, and it's one of the things that strikes me when you look at the numbers is that, if you ask Democrats, will you vote for Joe Biden if he's the nominee? Hardcore Democrats say, yes, I'll vote for him, or they'll hold my nose and I'll vote for him. But they're not happy about that. And when you talk about the America in a larger way, and not just the party faithful, but Americans, including independents and everything. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who look at Biden and say, I just can't vote for the guy. I just can't. And yet, this is the guy that the Democrats continue to push going forward. So, I stand by. This is developing exactly the way I thought it was going to develop. Nothing gets better for Biden right now. The economy... everybody says, well, is the economy better? No, nobody believes the economy is better. I mean, when the president says, this thing that he said, it's just unbelievable.
When I came to office, this nation was flat on its back. I knew what to do. I vaccinated the nation and rebuilt the economy.
Well, I don't know that America was flat on its back. Why are you saying that it was flat on? I think most people thought they were in much better shape than they had been before. And as far as fixing the economy, the numbers simply do not bear that out. When you look at polling numbers, something like 78% of Americans, when Biden took office, felt like their economy was okay. And now the numbers are absolutely in the toilet. So I stand by my prediction because of the enthusiasm gap, and because Donald Trump is sort of out there and not responsible for the things that are going on right now with the border and the economy and all those things. Those are all falling in the lap of the current president. He is, I think, in a position to win this thing. And I think when Democrats start looking at the poll numbers and the internal numbers and all the stuff that goes along with it, I think they're gonna have to force a change or get somebody else to run. I think it's going to happen. And again, if you look at the calendar, time is running out for that. If a Democrat is going to challenge Biden, then they need to get after it. If Biden is going to step down, he needs to do so fairly quick so another candidate can emerge for the Democrats. But Democrats right now, they're not happy. And although if you twist their arm and say if you were to have forced to choose between Trump and Biden, they would say that they would vote for Biden. But America writ large has great concerns about the current president of the United States, and I don't think that he is going to be the nominee. I think when all is said and done, something else will happen. Now, how that all unfolds, I haven't quite put it together yet. But I just know this. The power brokers within the Democrat Party are not going to stand by and allow Joe Biden to run against Donald Trump if it looks like, and it's beginning to look like, that Biden would lose, and he would lose big time. And the more he gets out there and stumbles and bumbles and mumbles his way through event after event, the worse it's going to be for this president of the United States. Stay tuned. It's getting interesting. Really, really interesting. 20 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock. Oh, let's talk about Rhino Shield. You know, you maybe you're thinking about painting your house, and that sounds like a good idea, doesn't it? You know, a lot of people want to paint their house, before the winter comes. But I want to ask you to think about not painting your house. Because if you paint your house, it'll look great for a little while, but then it's going to crack, it's going to chip, it's going to peel, because that's what paint does. But Rhino Shield, that's something different. It's not paint, 10 times thicker than paint, infused with special 3M ingredients, billions of microspheres that allow the coating to expand and contract, and that's why they offer a 25-year warranty against cracking, chipping, and peeling. I mean, don't take my word for it. Amanda said, my home turned out beautifully. They showed up on time. The work was great. Joan said that work was outstanding, the quality top of the line. My friends, the Garretts, were so pleased with what happened with their 100-year-old country home that they're booking the folks at Rhino Shield for a couple of other projects. Sound like something you'd be interested in? Won't you give Clay Morris a call? 615-474-1729. Learn more at rhinoshieldnashville.com.
What a government shutdown could mean for everyday Americans, mental health funds headed to Tennessee, and an update on Senator Bob Menendez, who's facing corruption charges. We'll fill you in 3:30. I'm Mac Morey here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 25 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk Radio. I'm Brian Wilson, and you're listening to The Drive. We're so glad you're with us on this Monday. Another, just glorious, now we can say fall day. It is officially fall.
That's true.
That happened on Saturday at some point, and so now it's fall weather. And this is my favorite time of year. It's the time that one gets out and, works in the yard and trims up bushes and pokes oneself in the eye with a holly bush. It's a great time.
It's funny that happened to you over the weekend, because on Friday, I believe it was, I got scratched by my holly bush that's in my yard. Like, it's right at the driveway outside my garage, and I kind of was slinking by.
Slinking? You were slinking?
And got too close to it, and I got a big scratch right on my shoulder, right at my arm, above my armpit, and I didn't know it at the time. And then I was taking my shirt off, like getting ready for bed that night, and I thought, where the hell did this come from? And I thought, oh yeah, scratched myself.
Those are nasty bushes.
They'll get you.
They will get you. And I got way behind in my yard work. There was a time, and not to look backwards and to moan and groan about it, but I was not feeling very good for several months this summer as I was dealing with some issues, and I really didn't get out in the yard and work very much. And it was way ugly. The vines had taken over and the bushes all needed to be trimmed. But now I'm feeling so good, and I wanted to get out there in the yard. And you would not believe the transition that took place in my yard over the weekend. We got some stuff done.
All right.
Every one of my power tools was used at some point this weekend. and it felt good to get out there and do that until I poked myself in the eye with a holly bush and had to go to urgent care.
Did they stick your eyeball in that little thing that blows the cleaner all in there to flush it out?
No, I went to they put drops in my eye, and then they looked at me through this device, and it was apparently putting the dye in the eye showed that there was a minor abrasion. And again, it looks bad. If you were to see me right now, you go, oh gosh, I bet that hurts, and it doesn't hurt at all, not a bit.
Yeah, that's good.
And I read somewhere, I guess back when I was having laser surgery, that the eye is the one thing in your body that heals faster than anything else. So I'm crossing my fingers that this will, apparently your sight is so, and it hasn't affected my sight. It hasn't affected anything. It just looks bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does look bad. Yes.
Yeah, it does. It does.
That's
and
confirmed.
I apologize. Yeah, I apologize. I could put a patch over mine. We could pretend I'm a pirate. That'd be good. All right, is there going to be a shutdown? Everybody wants to know, is there going to be a shutdown? This story from the Washington Examiner. 6 days until federal funding is set to lapse, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy expressing cautious optimism he can wrangle enough members of his party to begin advancing appropriation bills, and then they won't get all 12 probably. They would do a temporary stopgap measure to avert a government shutdown this weekend. They reconvene tomorrow evening. They all fly in on Tuesday. To vote on advancing a combined rule that contains 4 appropriations bills, teeing up the vote as soon as this week. Those 4 bills include spending for the Department of Defense, Department of Homeland Security, and state and foreign operations appropriations. After that, McCarthy says he hopes to bring some sort of continuing resolution or temporary spending measure to the floor sometime this week ahead of the shutdown deadline, a move that several hardline conservatives have vowed to oppose. McCarthy criticized those members today, noting objections to keeping the government open would only result in critical agencies losing funding. Listen, the question is, who would get blamed? I heard Matt Murphy talking about that. The polling seems to suggest that if the government is shut down, it is Democrats who will be blamed. This was brought up today in the briefing room at the White House.
37% of registered voters, just 37%, approve of the president's handling of the economy. He's at a 56% disapproval, the highest of his presidency. And 74% of registered voters say they have major or moderate concerns about the president's age and mental fitness. How troubling is that?
Oh, I got.
Here's what we're going to focus on.
You know what I did?
We're going to focus
I
on
picked
exactly
the-
what you
I
just
picked the
asked
wrong
me,
bite.
right? The first question.
I got so
which
much
is,
Korean here.
How do we?
Let's try that again. Here's the one about the shutdown.
The White House has made it very clear that it's on Republicans to avoid the government shutdown, not on the White House, but our latest polling shows that a higher percentage of Americans would actually blame the shutdown on the president and the Democrats, not on Republicans. Why do you think that is, and should the president be out there speaking more on this issue?
We're going to be very clear. This will be a Republican shutdown, right? This is extreme House Republicans who have made it very clear that the chaos that we're seeing in the House, they are marching us towards a government shutdown. That shouldn't be happening. This shouldn't be happening. This is the job of Congress. One of the basic jobs of Congress is to keep the government open. A deal was made. I mean, I can't speak to your polling, but what I can speak is to the facts.
Well, okay. The polling says that people would blame the Democrats. So, look, if there's a shutdown, I'm okay with it. I'm all right with it. If it brings us some better deal with regard to the budget and spending, shut her down. Tack it up, baby, gonna shut you down. That's right. That's what we're gonna do. Go ahead and shut it down. It's now 30 minutes. Call it 31 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock.
.31, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 86 degrees, a sunny, beautiful day on Music Row. Expecting some showers Tuesday night into Thursday night. A few days there where you can expect showers and thunderstorms scattered around Middle Tennessee. Traffic and a weather forecast coming up in 5 minutes. An anxious time for millions of military families and government workers worried about a possible government shutdown that's now less than a week away. Agricultural Secretary Thomas Vilsack sounding the alarm about the potential impacts of a shutdown at the White House briefing today. Karen Travers.
Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack is warning about the real consequences for nearly 7 million mothers and children who rely on the Special Supplemental Nutrition Program known as WIC. Secretary Vilsack said there is a contingency fund at the Agriculture Department that might continue WIC funding for a day or two, and states could have leftover benefits to send out. But if there is a government shutdown,
what we would see across the United States is a denial of those benefits and opportunities. In some cases, it would be literally within a matter of days.
the White House says WIC serves nearly half of babies born in the U.S.
Right now in Tennessee, Channel 4 says that Tennessee is going to receive $4 million in federal funding to support mental health and substance use disorder treatments. This funding comes from the $200 million in federal funds that are distributed across the nation for mental health services. And now over to some news concerning New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez, who rebuffed calls for him to step down today. He's been criminally indicted on corruption charges. Justin Finch fills us in from Washington.
Speaking publicly for the first time since his indictment last week, Senator Bob Menendez doubling down on his innocence.
I firmly believe that when all the facts are presented, not only will I be exonerated, but I still will be the New Jersey's senior senator.
Federal prosecutors allege Menendez used his influence to benefit 3 New Jersey businessmen and increase U.S. support for Egypt in exchange for hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash, gold bars, lavish gifts, and more. The indictment also charging his wife, Nadine.
Menendez did not respond to a question asking if he plans to run for re-election in 2024. But New Jersey House Democrat Andy Kim has announced plans to run in the upcoming Democratic primary. That's the latest news. Weather and traffic next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
You've heard me talk about Rhino Shield before, and really, it is really quite something. I mean, if you paint your house, oh man, it'll look good. I promise you, it'll look good for a little while, but it's not going to last long. It'll start to crack and chip and peel because that's what paint does. But Rhino Shield, man, I'm telling you, if you put it on your house instead of paint, you're going to have something that will last for another 25 years, a full quarter century, guaranteed. The Rhino Shield is not paint. It's 10 times thicker than paint. It's infused with special 3M ingredients, billions of microspheres that allow the coating to expand and contract. And that's why they offer a 25-year warranty against cracking, chipping, and peeling. You've heard a lot of people talk about it. I want to tell you about my friend the Garretts. They had a 100-year-old country home. And they had the folks at Rhino Shield, after hearing these ads, come out there and repaint their house and Rhino Shield their house. And man, they're completely pleased. So much so that they've decided that they're going to have a couple more projects done by Rhino Shield. If this sounds like something you'd be interested in, why don't you give Clay Morris a call, 615-474-1729, and learn more at rhinoshieldofnashville.com. There it is. That's right. Are we going to have a shutdown? I don't know, but it's a good reason to play Beach Boys music. You'd never heard of this song, had you?
Yeah, this one slipped by me. I'd never heard it.
I couldn't remember if it was the Beach Boys or Jan and Dean. Tack it up.
Yeah, I haven't heard this one either.
Really? Oh, yeah. Well, you really should acquaint yourself with the catalog of the Beach Boys. I have on my iPod, I think I have almost everything they ever recorded, as well as almost everything the Beatles recorded. And that gets us to our next story. Nobody told me, how did this happen without me knowing that Ringo Starr was in town this weekend?
I thought the same thing.
When I saw this, I said, oh, man, I would have loved to have gone to this thing. It was over at the Musicians Hall of Fame, where he was given the Joe Chambers Musician Legacy Award. Joe Chambers, the guy who started the Musician Hall of Fame. And by the way, incidentally, a guy who sold me my first Les Paul.
Huh.
I came to Nashville one time,
nice.
and he sold me a Les Paul. He said, you got to have a Les Paul in your collection. And so I bought one from him. And that was before the Musician Hall of Fame ever started. That's when I met Joe Chambers. And so they gave him the Legacy Award, and he had a few things to say. I captured a couple of these off of the various TV stories about it. Here's Ringo.
It means a lot, actually, because, I have a love for country music, and doesn't get any bigger than Nashville, you know what I mean? So, it's good.
It's good. It's good. And then he talked about how after the Beatles broke up in 1970, a producer by the name of Pete Drake went to London and visited with Ringo and begged him to come to Nashville to record.
I sent my car for him at Heathrow Airport, and it had a lot of tapes, cassettes in those days, of country artists. And he said, "Hey, Horse, I see you like country music." And we went on from there, and I ended up here, and we made a record. Well, I'm afraid I'm the only Ringo who gets the Ringo snare, That's how it is.
Hey, somebody, how you by the way, he said that somebody asked him, why is it your drumming was so distinctive? Well, I mean, he's gone in greater detail about that. He was a left-handed drummer playing a right-handed kit. And so when people try to replicate the things he was doing, it's for right-handed drummers on a right-handed kit, it's really, really hard. He did everything sort of backwards, and it made him distinctive. I've studied a lot about the Beatles, and I mean, really, I could go on for an hour talking about the Beatles. But I one of the things that I've come to really appreciate is what a magnificent drummer Ringo Starr was. He played symphonically rather than straight rock and roll with a steady beat, and he would just interpret the music, and then because he had this sort of left-handed approach to on a right-handed kit, it always sounded different than anything else anybody else was doing. And really a remarkable, remarkable talent. He's still doing well, still kicking out there, still going on tour. I think McCartney's going on tour. So, the Beatles are, at least the last two surviving Beatles are still out there getting it done. And I would have loved to have seen him at the Ryman with Peter Frampton and a bunch of other people. I looked at the audience, over at the induction to the Musicians Hall of Fame and getting the award, and like Amy and Vince were there, and Brenda Lee was there, for goodness sakes.
Wow.
Brenda Lee said that the Beatles opened for her when she performed in Hamburg years ago back in her rock and roll days. Yeah. Yeah. How about that, huh? Well, anyway, sorry I missed it. Congratulations to everyone on that. Some other news from local news. Freddie O'Connell at 7:37 this morning became the 10th mayor of Nashville.
I, Freddie O'Connell, do solemnly swear that I will support the constitutions of the state of Tennessee, and the United States of America, and the Charter of the Metropolitan Government, of Nashville and Davidson County. And that I will faithfully, impartially, and with fidelity, discharge the duties of Metropolitan County Mayor, without fear or favor, and for the public welfare. So help me God. Congratulations, Barry.
And there it is, the 10th mayor of Nashville, Davidson County. And the first thing that the mayor's going to do is go out and buy a better microphone, because that was bad. Couldn't you have found a microphone, Mayor? Come on. I don't know, but congratulations, Freddie O'Connell.
I just had a thought, Brad. I probably shouldn't interject this, but I'm going to. They just haven't had a chance to raise the microphones off of the floor level where they were for Cooper for the last 4 years. Just give them a couple days. They'll get them back up.
That's brilliant. Yes, thank you for that. That's the best one of the day. I'll tell you that was pretty good, Chris. I like that. Well, we haven't yet come up with a nickname for our new mayor, but give us time. We're on it. We'll get to it eventually. Let's see. This I'm really excited about. I think this is the right thing to do. Speaker Sexton and Lieutenant Governor McNally have put together a joint working group to talk about federal election funding. study the impact of federal education funding has in and out of the classroom, the restrictions, the mandates, the additional regulations required by the federal Department of Education, and then look into whether the state could provide similar services without taking the federal dollars. You see, when you take federal dollars, strings are always attached. You got to do this and you got to do that. And we in Tennessee may not agree with some of those strings as they are attached. So now Cameron Sexton is saying maybe we could just decide not to take any federal education dollars and replace it with education dollars from the state of Tennessee, and we could do it like we want to do it without the federal government telling us how to do it. The bipartisan joint working group, comprised of House and Senate members, is authorized and directed to study, evaluate, analyze, and undertake a comprehensive review of federal education funding and its impact on the classroom, the curriculum, and attainment. Anytime the federal government sends money, there's always strings attached to those dollars, said Speaker Sexton, and there's always the possibility that it opens the state up to regulations or restrictions. This working group will help provide a clearer picture of how much autonomy Tennessee truly has in educating our students. A 10-member panel. I love this. I think it's a great, great idea. And you guys will love this next story. We had an old-fashioned train robbery in Nashville. I mean, you know, you think about train robberies. You think about train robberies happening, you know, back in the 1860s or 70s, you know, back in that time.
Yeah.
But, well, it's not quite what you're imagining, probably.
Oh.
3 women arrested for allegedly robbing a train in Nashville. 3 women in custody. They tried to steal items from a train near Watkins Park on Saturday. According to their arrest affidavits, Metro Nashville police were dispatched to the railroad crossing at 17th Avenue North for reports of a train robbery, this according to Channel 4, and arrived to find multiple suspects with broken boxes outside of one of the train containers. When officers approached, the suspects dropped the boxes and ran into the wood line, escaping through an opening in the fence. The 3 women were observed getting into 2 vehicles parked parallel to the train tracks that contained stolen boxes from the train container. The officers approached a white Nissan and found 20-year-old Nakaria Anthony and 19-year-old Lemetria Scales inside with items that came from apparently the train. The other vehicle was parked behind the Nissan and also found a 26-year-old Nicolette Buford and inside a gray Chevy Malibu. Buford backed up and began to drive away when the officers approached. It looked like it was a dicey situation there for a little bit. But apparently the train was stopped, and they had stuff in it, and apparently they went over there and opened the train and started taking things out, is the alleged allegation, according to police. A railroad spike was used to break the seal on the containers. The train, I didn't know, just railroad spikes just laying around. The train was forced to stay parked during the investigation, which lasted 4 hours on Saturday evening. The 3 women were all taken into custody, charged with multiple counts of felony burglary, and remain in custody on a $62,000 bond. The officer with the railroad company CSX estimates the total cost of the incident to be approximately $23,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
They didn't say what it was they were stealing, though.
No, they didn't say what it was. But yeah.
And you know, they had no clue what was going to be in that boxcar, right? I mean, it's not like they plastered it on the side. This one contains televisions.
Yeah, I know. I
didn't
have
know.
no idea. They didn't know, but what they got, they were apparently willing to take over to their car. We had a train robbery in Watertown this weekend. They do
I heard about that one.
An annual. I don't know that they do it a couple times a year. The train comes in and there's a bunch of people dress up like cowboys and go down and rob the people when they come in on the train to Watertown.
Yeah, they do it right. They're on horseback.
They're on horsebacks and they're all dressed up in cowboy gear. And it's one day I went down one time downtown Watertown. It's literally about a minute from my house.
Mm-hmm.
There's not anything in Watertown that's more than a minute away. I went down one time to when they were doing this, and it's quite a show they put on. I mean, there are pistols firing, and there no good varmints and shootouts and the whole 9 yards during these things, and it's quite a show that they put on. It looks like a lot of fun. If you ever want to come to Watertown, take the train when they're doing the robbery tour.
That would be a lot of fun.
And don't bring anything valuable
Yeah.
because they'll rob you. I mean, 50 minutes now past the hour, 3 o'clock. Well, you know about USS, United Structural Systems. They will fix anything that goes wrong with your house with regard to waterproofing or perhaps foundation issues, cracks in the brick. You know all the things to look for. And if you find some of those things, you need to call USS. I'll tell you, a lot of people have, and a lot of people, 25,000 satisfied residential customers so far. And a lot of people are very pleased. I've got a whole page and a half here of people who are thrilled they are with the work that was done by USS. Chris said the crew that worked on our house has been top notch. I appreciate the integrity, the speed of feedback, the quality of the work provided by all who have worked with us. Here's excellent experience. The entire crew was professional and knowledgeable about their services and put me at ease during the entire process. That's Constance. Gloria, I just want to say hats off to the crew for their hard, excellent work. I'm very pleased. They did not leave any mess to be cleaned. Actually, you could not even tell they had been there. It's good, hard workers that make me love USS and tell everyone about your excellent customer service and work. I thank you for the respect your guys showed me. They truly were like a breath of fresh air. Listen, I'm telling you, they guarantee their best at USS, serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, Northern Alabama, online at USSTN.com or call this number, 615-488-7855.
One of the big words being thrown around in the investing world right now is this one. You may have heard it. Fiduciary. The idea that the investment advisor has to keep your interest first when they give advice. Now, it's being used in a marketing sense right now, and one of the things that I found fascinating, there was a study by the University of Southern California and Indiana University. They looked at investment advisor portfolios and they found that they were making basic academic mistakes in the management of their own portfolios. And the question that they asked was, if they can't even keep their own best interest first, how are they going to keep your best interest first? That was the question. Now, one of the things that we do at Paul Winkler Inc. is every one of our offices, 10 offices, is run by a degreed planner, number one. But we go way beyond the call of duty when it comes to fiduciary and making sure that we're using academically sound principles in investing. Evidence-based. In other words, a lot of this is backed by Nobel Prize winning research. To learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
A possible government shutdown and what it means for everyday Americans. A mayor in Tennessee charged with domestic assault. Nashville's new mayor, Freddie O'Connell, officially sworn in. And the latest presidential polling numbers. Those stories and more coming up at 4 o'clock right here. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, let's take a look at the market. Dow Jones Industrial ended the day up 43 points. The S&P up 17, NASDAQ up 59. So all screens are green here today. Oil, well, it's West Texas Intermediate's at about $90 a barrel, just a little under, and Brent crude's at 93 right now. With more from Beacon Capital Management, let's check in with John Maxon, who's going to tell us a little bit about one thing that has to do with savings, and then look forward to the rest of the week. John?
Yeah, you're right, Brian. The market shook off a little bit of the Fed's message today on higher rates for longer, which it really struggled with last week. But I'll tell you, we're going to get a gauge tomorrow on the confidence of the consumer. You know, consumer spending drives about 70% of the U.S. economy, so that's a pretty big deal. That report's due out tomorrow. There was an article today that ran that stated that Americans outside of the wealthiest 20% have not only low savings, they actually have savings that's lower than when the pandemic began. And then you add to it that student loan payments are going to begin again in October. Consumer confidence in this economy and their ability to spend is going to be something to watch, along with what you said and the increase in cost of oil. So something to watch tomorrow for sure.
All right, John Maxon. Learn more about all the things they can do for you over at Beacon Capital Management by going to their website, askbeaconnow.com. It's 59 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock. Hey, busy bee. This time of year, you know, it may be that you need your heater because it gets a little cool at night. You might need your air conditioner. Same thing. Gets warm during the day. Well, if either one of those go out on the fritz, then you call this number, 615-775-7833, and the folks at Busy Bee will buzz right over to your hive and get it all fixed. If you find that you need to replace a plumbing or an HVAC system, they don't last forever, then, you know, you're not going to find a better deal than the deal you'll get from the folks at Busy Bee. You should become a member of the Beehive Club. I am. For $99, you get 3 thorough maintenance services on your systems. 1 at the beginning of heating, 1 aimed at cooling, 1 aimed at plumbing. No overtime charges 24/7, 10% off all repairs. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling is your official Rude Pro partner. For satisfaction guaranteed, call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, 775-7833.
.401, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 87 degrees right now on Music Row. Some showers possible tomorrow night all the way into Thursday night. Scattered showers and thunderstorms. Complete weather and traffic report in 5 minutes. There's now less than 1 week until a possible federal government shutdown. Sunday, October 1st is the day when federal student loan repayments restart after the pandemic pause. That's also the first day of a possible government shutdown. What impact could this have on student loan repayments? Karen Travers.
White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said Monday that if there is a shutdown, key activities at federal student aid in the Department of Education will continue for a couple of weeks. But she warned
a prolonged shutdown lasting more than a few weeks could substantially disrupt the return to repayment effort and long-term servicing support for borrowers.
The White House says there is no consideration to pushing back the October 1st start date for student loan payments.
Some crime in Tennessee. The mayor of Burns, Tennessee, was arrested yesterday for allegedly getting into a fight with his girlfriend's child. Channel 4 reports that 45-year-old Landon Sean Mathis was charged with domestic assault. The victim says that it started over payment for yard work. He said a deal was made that he'd weed eat for $40 and that Mathis wouldn't pay it. When he was talking to his mom about the topic, Mathis reportedly got up and grabbed him by the neck and body, pushed him over and over again on the couch around his neck, and the city nor Mathis has commented on the arrest. Right now in Nashville, Freddie O'Connell has been officially sworn in as mayor of Metro Nashville. Channel 4 says one of the first things he said afterward was about reaching out to state leaders to bridge relationships.
I have already talked to several state legislators. I have talked to folks in the governor's office. I have talked to some of the key constitutional officers at the state level. Those conversations will continue.
3 of O'Connell's goals will be better sidewalks, better transit, and more affordable housing. O'Connell says key staffing appointments will be coming soon, and the inauguration is this Saturday at 11:30 a.m. at City Hall Park. And runner-up Alice Rowley joined WTN's The Matt Murphy Show today, and when asked if she had hope for Freddie's tenure, she said that she did. And she said even though that they didn't win, it was important for Republicans to get some facts out there and confront things. And a new ABC News Washington Post poll signaling trouble for President Biden. According to the latest poll, Biden trails Trump 51 to 42%. And as for the rest of the Republican field, the former president leading Florida Governor Ron DeSantis by nearly 40 points. That is a 16-point jump from the last poll in May. DeSantis is now dropping in the polls, and every other candidate is in single digits. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. 7 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock. I'm Brian Wilson, and you're listening to The Drive on Monday, September 25th. It's a beautiful fall day, so let's get you home safely. Wherever it is you're going at this particular hour, we'll drive you there while we drive the liberals just a little bit crazy. So much to talk about. And again, if you have been watching any news over the last few days on the television, you have no doubt seen pictures of this incredibly bad situation down on the southern border. I think I read yesterday, 11,000 people crossed the border yesterday. 11,000 people in one day. It comes to about 7.5 million people have crossed the border illegally and have been given permission to come into the country by the Biden administration. And it continues to be a horrible, horrible situation. And the White House briefing room today, Karine Jean-Pierre was asked about it. She totally dodges. She doesn't answer anything anymore.
So I'm going to have to point you to the readout from CBP, as you just mentioned. They issued a readout of their conversation with the Mexican government over the weekend. So regarding their engagement, so certainly would have you reach out to them, and they could lay out specifically how that engagement went, and also refer you to the readouts more specifically.
Yeah, no. Just basically, I'm not talking about it. I don't know anything. She doesn't answer any questions anymore. I mean, she was asked about the economy. She dodges on the economy. She's asked about the border. She dodges on the border. She's asked about, the frailty of the current president. She dodges on that. She doesn't answer anything. Anyway, the Biden administration, according to the Free Beacon, knew that the border surge was coming and did nothing. The Department of Homeland Security was aware that a large population of migrants was preparing to cross the southern border months before a near-record number surged into the country this month, internal documents obtained by the Washington Free Beacon now show, but appears to have taken no action to forestall an influx that has overwhelmed local officials across the United States. The documents show that Mexican immigration authorities have seen a spike in apprehensions since May, an indication that border crossings were likely to rise, and that federal agencies documented a large buildup of migrants on the Mexican side of the border at the beginning of September. The White House, which has struggled to counteract the surge of migrants that began when President Joe Biden took office in January of 21, is pointing finger at Republicans. What? Arguing that the GOP lawmakers in Congress are responsible for the problem because they've stymied the president's proposal for immigration reform. Let's just stop that nonsense right now. He says, well, it's the Republicans' fault because they're against immigration reform. Well, yeah, they're against the kind of reform that you want, but there wasn't a problem. There was no problem at all with the previous president. They simply enforced the freaking laws. Oh, my goodness, this just drives me crazy. Biden's problems on the southern border have put him at odds with Democrat officials, as Democratic leaders in cities like Chicago and New York have struggled to deal with tens of thousands of new arrivals, forcing lawmakers there to consider sharp budget cuts to pay for housing and other social services. The warning signs on the Mexican side of the border came as immigration authorities recorded a record high number of migrant encounters in August. And CBP announced last Friday evening that nearly 232,000 migrants crossed the border in August. That is a record for the calendar year and a nearly 27% increase from July. There is little evidence the situation is set to improve. El Paso Mayor Oscar Leeser says his city is at a breaking point. Nearly 100,000 more migrants are traveling through Panama and Mexico with the hopes of crossing into the United States, Reuters reported last week. So many migrants have illegally boarded trains that railroad operator Union Pacific temporarily ended its service in Mexico. Yeah, see, I think what's going on here is people in Mexico and Central America, around the world really, are looking at the situation in our country, and they're coming to the rapid conclusion, as are many Americans, that Joe Biden will not be reelected. And they know that if he is not reelected, that the border controls will be reimposed. And so I think a lot of people are saying we better get there, and we better get there quick before they have their election and all this stuff gets shut down again. I think that's what's happening. I think there's a motivation for all the people who want to come here to do so quickly. And so I don't think it's going to get any better right up to the time of the election. And this administration is doing nothing to solve the problem. They are so damn incompetent. They're incompetent on the economy. They're incompetent on the border. It is just, it's painful to watch. It truly is. Listen to this. This is from the Washington Examiner, Dateline, Austin, Texas. The headline of the U.S. Border Patrol is frustrated that its federal law enforcement agents have been pulled from their posts guarding against drugs like fentanyl and dangerous criminals to process tens of thousands of immigrants who poured across the border last week. Border Patrol Chief Jason Owen says it is not the job of the 19,000 Border Patrol agents nationwide to intake immigrants who cross the border illegally, but that organized crime groups in Mexico have done so to keep agents out of the field. They're overwhelming them at the checkpoints so that the drugs can come in. It's a money-making opportunity for those smugglers, he says, and I believe it's a distraction to cross other things into the country: narcotics, fentanyl, bulk cash, weapons, people of interest, whether it be hardened criminals, gang members, convicted sexual predators, people of interest. So there are those who want to have contact, and there are those who want to run from the police, but they're coming in, the so-called gotaways that they couldn't interact with because, well, they're busy over there handing out paperwork for those who have overwhelmed the checkpoints. Wow. And so 1.7 million gotaways. 1.7 million gotaways. Mexican cartels have not only taken advantage of Border Patrol being distracted, but instigated the distraction in the first place. Owens explained pulling agents from the field leaves vast open spaces for cartels to move criminals, bulk cash, weapons, and drugs across the border undetected. Across the 2,000-mile southern border, certain regions have been hit harder than others. Arizona's Tucson region, as well as El Paso, Eagle Pass, Del Rio, and the Rio Grande Valley of Texas, have been staggering increases in the number of immigrants apprehended after crossing illegally, particularly in Eagle Pass, a remote town in south-central Texas. Border Patrol was so overwhelmed by the thousands that streamed across the Rio Grande each day that overflow rooms were packed and thousands of people were held outside under an international bridge waiting to be transported to federal facilities. In terms of flow and the threats that we're seeing with fentanyl and with the criminal organizations that are our adversary, it's about as bad as I've ever seen, says the director of the Border Patrol. A lot of times our facilities are already at capacity. One day last week, Eagle Pass region had more than 3,000 people in custody, but they only had room for 1,800. Mass releases are happening on the street. It isn't sustainable. This is up and down the system. Everybody is overwhelmed. Even the government of Mexico has been great partners, but they're overwhelmed too, despite the dire circumstances. Owen said that agents cannot deter or turn away any migrants. Wow. We see a lot of people say, well, just push back. Just don't let them cross or send them back immediately. The Border Patrol is a law enforcement agency. We enforce the laws that are on the books. We don't have the right, nor should we have, denying somebody due process once they are on U.S. soil. Well, I can tell you, in the previous administration, they found a way to deal with that. We didn't have this problem. We absolutely did not have this problem then. From justthenews.com, Border Patrol apprehended 151 illegal immigrants on the terrorist watch list in less than a year. The United States Border Patrol arrested 151 illegal immigrants whose names appear on the National Terrorism Watch List between October of 22 and August. The Border Patrol nabbed 98 individuals whose names appeared on the terrorist watch list in all of fiscal year 2022. So this is like more. Additionally, in fiscal year 2019, Border Patrol had no apprehensions of individuals on the terrorist watch list. And so, again, that's 151 that they had an interaction with and they stopped, but we don't know how many of the 1.7 million gotaways who got into this country with no interaction with law enforcement were on the terrorist watch list. That's the other thing. This is the ones we know. These are the known illegal immigrants on the watch list. What about the unknown? How many of those 1.7 million people might have been on the watch list? We'll never know. We didn't have the resources to go out and interdict them. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I wouldn't want this guy's job, this Border Patrol chief's job, for all the money in the world. I just wouldn't. I wouldn't take it. He's got his hands full. And I know, I've been down there. I've talked to some of these Border Patrol people over the years. They're good and they're dedicated and they know how to get the job done if only they were allowed to do so. Somehow there are solutions to this because we didn't have this problem before Joe Biden came along. This is a post-Biden inauguration issue. When I was down at the border, I talked to people and they said it happened the day he raised his hand and took the oath of office. They started coming in bigger numbers. In fact, he said actually a few days before. They knew that that they were going to get a chance to come to America under the Biden administration, and now something in the neighborhood of 7.5 million people have taken advantage of the lax border controls to come to this country. 7.5 million. It's a disaster. And we are going to rue the day. There will come a time, and I don't know when it's going to happen, but I pray that it doesn't, but I fear we will come a time when we'll rue the day we allowed our borders to be so porous. 20 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock. Let's talk about EverSeal. What is it? Well, it's a sealant for your exterior wood and concrete. It's just that simple. Actually, the technology has been around for years, used mostly in industrial applications, but the folks at EverSeal figured out how to take this technology and apply it in a way that wood and concrete could be protected at your home for a price that you could actually afford. The process starts with a deep cleaning. They come in, they clean your wood or your concrete to try to bring it back and look as new as it possibly can. And then their patented seal is added, which actually becomes a part of your wood and concrete and will prevent further deterioration, and I'm not making this up, for the next 30 to 50 years. Think about all that you could accomplish if you didn't have to spend your weekends sealing your deck or your concrete. I mean, think about it. Think about, how much money you would save over 30 to 50 years by never having to do another thing. When you add it all up, I think you'll agree this is a good deal. Why don't you reach out to Steve Nelson and the team over at EverSeal, 1-844-EVER-USA. That's 844-EVER-USA. Learn more at ever-seal.com.
President Biden standing with auto workers on strike, mental health funding in Tennessee, plus today's money news. Those stories and more coming up at 4:30 right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
You know, we have talked on this program, all of us from time to time, about ChatGPT and how it's sort of scary. I mean, you know, you type in a question and then you get an answer. You ask it to write an essay and it does so in seconds. And this artificial intelligence technology is really, it is both amazing and perhaps just a little frightening. And now comes a new development from the folks over at ChatGPT. They say that it can now chat with you. I mean, actually, it can hear you, it can interpret your words, and it can answer with an electronic, voice of some kind. And they say well, we got a little sample of it, don't we, Chris? Where did you find this?
Yeah, this is a sample that OpenAI, the developers of ChatGPT, posted on their website when unveiling this new technology. So it's kind of a sample conversation.
We want to hear a bedtime story. Tell us a story about the super-duper sunflower hedgehog named Larry. Start with telling us a little bit about him.
Larry was a unique hedgehog unlike any other. He had bright sunflower petals instead of spines. Residing in Meadowville, Larry spread joy and color wherever he rolled. People cherished his radiant presence.
What was his house like?
Larry's house was a cozy burrow beneath a sunflower field. Inside, the walls shimmered with golden petal patterns. Natural light streamed through tiny sunflower windows, creating a warm, glowing ambiance. It was
this is a computer making all of this up.
Yeah.
Who is his best friend?
His best friend was Luna, a luminescent firefly. At night, while Larry's petals rested, Luna's glow kept them company. Their bond was special. Larry brought sunshine by day, and Luna starlight by night.
Good
Together,
Lord.
They illuminated Meadowville.
Okay, it's bedtime for Larry. What does he do to go to sleep?
Throwing him a curveball.
Larry curls up in his petal blanket, letting its softness embrace him. Luna sings a gentle lullaby, her glow dimming to mimic twilight. The scent of sunflower fills the air, and Larry drifts into peaceful dreams. Good night, Larry.
There you go. Nice
Wow.
little bedtime
And
story.
The voice that was reading the bedtime story was a computer. It was completely made up by this ChatGPT software. I mean, this is the amazing thing about it. Now it's scary because, we're not far from, forget the hedgehogs and luminescent Luna. I'm worried about this. I can't. I got the wrong clip here. I'm sorry.
Open the pod bay doors, please, Hal.
There it is.
Oh.
Hello, Hal, do you read me? Hello, Hal, do you read me? Do you read me, Hal?
Hal won't open the pod. They won't open the pod bay doors.
I forgot how dramatic it was.
Hello, Hal, do you read me?
They cut back and forth, showing the little eyeball glowing.
Do you read me, Hal?
Affirmative, Dave. I read you.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
That's what I'm worried about right there.
Yeah.
When they start refusing to do what we ask them to do. I mean, look, it's amazing technology. But I mean, I'll just stick with what I said earlier. It's really shocking how good it is, and it's also scary how good it is. It's shocking and terrifying at the same time. And this apparently, I've got a story here about it. I can also apparently now respond to images.
Yep.
For example, you can upload a photo of the inside of a refrigerator, and the chatbot gives them a list of dishes they could cook with the ingredients that they sees there.
Whoa.
Yeah. We're looking to make ChatGPT easier to use and more helpful. Apparently this is just happening. I mean, this puts Alexa and Siri, way back in the pack. They don't have any of this ability. So that not only now can it completely answer all your questions, not only can it write an essay, not only can it do all the things, but now it can talk to you. And it won't be long, I think, before it starts talking back.
Yeah, putting the voice behind it really takes it to a whole nother level.
Well, we need to get the Dave, I'm sorry, I can't do that, Dave, the Hal voice. We need to have it. What if you can get it to do that one?
There's different voice samples. Let's see. This is called Juniper.
Once in a tranquil woodland, there was a fluffy mama cat named
All right, so that was the first one that we heard. This one's called Sky.
Lila. One sunny day, she cuddled with her playful kitten, Milo,
Here's
under
Cove.
the shade of an
tree. Milo, Lila began, her voice soft and gentle.
That's kind of Dave-like.
You're going to have a new playmate soon.
Or Hal-like. Let's see. Ember.
Milo's ears perked up, curious.
Nah.
A new playmate? Lila purred.
And then finally, we have Breeze.
Yes, a baby sister. Milo's eyes widened with excitement. A sister? Will she?
Yeah, they don't really have a Hal-like voice. Cove is as close as you
chase
can get.
tails like I do? Lila chuckled. Oh, she'll have her own quirks. You'll teach her, won't you?
I wish I could type in something for it to say and type in, I'm sorry,
I want you to
Dave, I
repeat
can't
these
do
words.
that."
I'm sorry, Dave. We can't do that. Well, in other science news, well, I don't have time for it. I'll get to it later. It's 30 minutes now past the hour, 4 o'clock, time for the news.
.30, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 87 degrees right now in Nashville. We got a full weather forecast, the latest traffic report. They're both headed your way in 5 minutes. Following a meeting in the White House Roosevelt Room today, President Biden answered questions about the striking auto workers. The president responded saying he's a longtime UAW supporter and it's time for the industry to repay the workers for the sacrifices they've made during the financial crisis.
I think the UAW gave up an incredible amount back when the automobile industry was going under. They give everything from their pensions on, and they saved the automobile industry. And I think that now that the industry is roaring back, they should participate in the benefit of that.
President Biden will be in Michigan tomorrow. He plans to join the picket line as a labor strike against the three largest motor vehicle manufacturers in the United States. The United Auto Workers Union, which represents nearly 150,000 American auto workers, launched a strike against GM, Ford, and Stellantis on September 15th. Right now in the volunteer state, Channel 4 says that Tennessee is going to receive $4 million in federal funding to support mental health and substance use disorder treatments. This funding comes from the $200 million in federal funds that are going to be distributed across the nation. Now over to some money news. Daria Albinger walks us through what happened today on Wall Street.
Slight gains on a sluggish day for the markets. The Dow rose 43 points, the Nasdaq added 60, and the S&P closed up 17. Stocks have been struggling lately on realizations that the Federal Reserve's decision to hold on interest rates, well, it isn't going to be the norm, and that at least one more increase is expected this year. That could keep rates high well into next year. The central bank trying to get inflation back to the 2% target rate, and it still has a way to go. If you filled your car, you know gas is getting more expensive because oil prices are rising, and that also means that Russia is earning money that it can use to wage its war against Ukraine. This latest bump in prices is a decision by Saudi Arabia and Russia, both major oil-producing nations, to cut back on exports. Rite Aid plans to close up to 500 stores as part of a bankruptcy plan. The pharmacy chain is $3 billion in debt over a federal lawsuit alleging it oversupplied opioids.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Let's talk about assisted family care. You know, one of the hardest things we see as we grow into adulthood is our parents and other loved ones in our family are reaching an age where they struggle with their day-to-day lives. It reminds us that they're approaching an age where at some point they're going to need some help. And this is where assisted family care can help. They can connect you with a responsible, compatible helper who will assist your loved one's daily needs. And if your loved one is a veteran or a spouse of or a widow of a veteran, they could very well qualify for a little-known benefit to help cover these kinds of expenses. Assisted Family Care has years in experience of helping those in Middle Tennessee who qualify to get access to the benefit. You see, many veterans are eligible for up to 20 hours of daily living assistance each week at no cost to them. Not everyone is eligible, but if you're a veteran with wartime service, you could qualify for the benefit for yourself or for your spouse. I want to warn you, the application process is daunting and confusing, but Assisted Family Care can help. Assisted Family Care will be there for you. So visit assistedfamilycare.com or call this number, 615-833-9725. It's 38 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock. And for those who are watching on Super Talk TV, I need to apologize if you are just joining us. I explained it earlier, but I guess I'm going to need to explain it again. You may notice that my left eye is, a little bloodshot. A little is an underestimation of it. It's completely bloodshot. I had a little accident this weekend while I was out working in the yard with power tools. You know, they always tell you, if you're working with power tools, put on eye protection. and so I was out there, man. I was going after a holly bush like nobody's business. I was trimming, I was cutting, I was getting it done, and then I poked my eye with a holly bush. And one of those leaves, they're very sharp, very pointy.
Yeah.
Poke my left eye. I didn't think much about it. I went, wow. And I blinked it away, and I went on, continued with my trimming. Because a man with a bunch of hedge trimmers, powered hedge trimmers in his hand is not to be deterred. You've got to keep working, and so I'm getting after it. And I finally finish up this whole row of hedges, and I started blinking a little bit. I thought I better have Cabana wife take a look at this. She was over there pulling weeds, and this is our exciting weekend. She's pulling weeds, and I'm trimming hedges. And so I said, hey, honey, look at my left eye. Does it look okay? She said, I knew it was bad. And I went inside and looked in the mirror, and we went to urgent care. And again, it looks really bad. Not so bad, really. It apparently, they say it's a minor abrasion, but it's what they call a hematoma. A hematoma in my left eye. So it will get better in a week or two, they tell me. But in the meantime, you have to look at me, and we have our own special version of Red Eye Radio going here today.
That's true. Yeah.
That's right. Well, anyway. So apologize. Don't look too closely.
No, you don't need to get closer. That's just fine. We can see it.
See?
No, I don't need to see it any closer.
Yeah. If you're not watching on TV, you're missing quite the show. All right, let's move on. We got stuff to talk about here. Hunter Biden, vulnerable to federal charges for unpaid taxes from his $1 million a year in Ukraine. This is according to one of my favorite reporters, Susan Faricio with the Washington Times. President Biden's son, Hunter Biden, has not dodged potential criminal charges for the taxes he failed to pay while serving on the board of the Ukrainian energy firm Burisma Holdings nearly a decade ago. Special counsel David Weiss, the lead prosecutor in Hunter Biden's ongoing tax fraud case, let the statute of limitations expire for not paying $124,000 in taxes on his roughly $1 million Burisma salary in 2014. Critics say the move was aimed at shielding the Bidens from a case that may have exposed evidence of influence peddling involving then Vice President Biden. However, legal experts say Mr. Weiss can revive the case because Hunter Biden has not yet paid the taxes. He could be charged with conspiracy to commit tax fraud, a move that could lead investigators to evidence of Mr. Biden's alleged involvement in helping Burisma thwart a state corruption probe on behalf of his son. This is a crucial test for Weiss, says Mike Davis, a former counsel to the Senate Judiciary Committee and president of the Article 3 Project, which advocates for constitutionalist judges and the rule of law. Mr. Weiss is facing intense scrutiny from House and Senate lawmakers over his handling of the tax fraud and the gun violation probe. He's supposed to go and be charged in Delaware on, I think it's October 3rd, for the gun charges, and he faces the potential of, doing time in jail. After a plea deal with Hunter Biden fell apart in court in July, Mr. Weiss indicted him on 3 felony gun charges related to his possession of a Colt Cobra revolver while addicted to drugs. But Mr. Weiss has yet to indicate how or whether he plans to charge Hunter Biden over hundreds of thousands of dollars in unpaid taxes and other possible crimes, including violations of the Foreign Agent Registration Act, also known as FARA. House Republicans were asking about this last week when Attorney General Merrick Garland was testifying before the Judiciary Committee, and he didn't have much to say about it. He said, I stayed out of their way. And, they accused him of letting the statute of limitations lapse. But according to this story by Susan Faricio, there are ways to get at a charge on that. As a part of the now discarded plea deal, Hunter Biden agreed to plead guilty to 2 misdemeanor charges related to his failure to pay more than $100,000 in taxes in 2017 and 2018. The agreement did not carry a jail sentence. It was scuttled in a July court hearing, prompting Mr. Weiss to seek and receive special counsel status from Mr. Garland. The move allows him to charge the president's son with additional crimes, including FARA violations, an act of the Justice Department revived in recent years, to prosecute several associates of former President Donald Trump. If Weiss intends to restore any integrity to his investigation, he must immediately and aggressively move forward with all readily probable charges against Hunter, including related to foreign bribery and corruption, being an unregistered foreign agent, wire fraud, tax evasion, and conspiracy. So apparently there are pathways, according to some legal experts, for him to go back after Hunter Biden with some of these things. And I don't think Weiss is done. I don't think. From justthenews.com, FBI agent says prosecutors thwarted Hunter Biden's charges, corroborating an IRS whistleblower. An FBI supervisor has now corroborated key aspects of the two IRS whistleblowers' testimony, alleging that federal prosecutors slow-walked Hunter Biden's criminal probe and declined last year to bring tax charges in Los Angeles and Washington, D.C. The female FBI supervisor, whose name the Justice Department asked to be kept private in the transcript, was interviewed recently by the House Judiciary Committee, and she chronicled her interactions with IRS agents Gary Shapley and Joseph Ziegler and Delaware U.S. Attorney David Weiss, the lead prosecutor. While the agent said she had different recollections than her IRS colleagues about certain aspects of the case and did not believe politics caused any delays, she confirmed there were instances in which prosecutors slowed the investigation. Specifically, she confirmed agents were concerned that the DOJ tried to use the 2022 midterm elections to delay action in the Hunter Biden case, even though his father was not up for election last year. How about that? And then there is this. The Department of Justice now says David Weiss, the special counsel prosecuting Hunter Biden, in the near term will be able to testify to the House Judiciary Committee as part of his own probe of the son of President, part of its own probe of the son of President Joe Biden. The DOJ, in a letter Friday, did not commit to making Weiss available by mid-October, as committee chairman Jim Jordan had asked, and it is not clear when Weiss will be allowed to appear by the DOJ. The volume and requested pace of the committee's proposed schedule far exceeds the department's resources, they wrote, especially in light of the committee's other pending requests and subpoenas to the department on other topics. Among them, an impeachment inquiry into President Biden, wrote Assistant Attorney General Carlos Uriarte. We remain committed to providing information voluntarily without unnecessary escalation. But they say it can testify in the near term. That's a vague, bureaucratic phrase, isn't it? Don't you think? Weiss in July was approved to speak to the Republican-led panel, which has been critical of how the criminal investigation has been handled. But in late July, the DOJ's planned plea agreement with Hunter Biden collapsed in U.S. District Court in Delaware, leaving Weiss' appearance before the committee in question. Biden had been expected that month to plead guilty. But that deal fell apart after its terms were questioned by the judge, and Weiss and Biden's lawyers were unable to agree to new conditions. In its letter to the Judiciary Committee, the DOJ said it reaffirms its commitment to making Weiss available in the near term to address the subject of his authority in the Biden probe. The department also offered to make available to the House panel testimony from U.S. Attorney Matthew Graves of Washington, D.C., U.S. Attorney Martin Estrada of Los Angeles, and Stuart Goldberg, an acting Deputy Assistant Attorney General. The letter said the two U.S. attorneys would be able to address the committee's questions about Weiss and his ability to bring charges outside of Delaware, where he is the U.S. attorney. I mean, Weiss apparently told those who were involved in the investigation of Hunter Biden, and by extension Joe Biden, that he did not have the authority to bring these cases in D.C. or in Los Angeles, that he was denied that authority and said, I cannot go forward because I cannot get permission to bring cases in D.C. or L.A. And that now Merrick Garland took the stand last week and said, no. All he had to do was come to the Attorney General and get something known as a 515 document signed by the Attorney General, and he could have gone forward. They don't have to partner with him, but they could not stop him if they had the 515. And he said, so, Garland is making the case that there was no effort to stop him, that he could have gone forward, but Weiss told other investigators, the whistleblowers who've now come forward, that he didn't have the authority to go forward, and was being blocked from doing so. All I can tell you is Weiss did bring the gun charges. He continues to have other options now, as we heard in this story by Susan Faricio. He can bring tax charges. He can bring a whole bunch of charges if he chooses to do so. And so now the question is, will he do so? When what I'm reading into this is the Department of Justice is saying, wait, there's going to be something, another shoe to drop, and then he'll be able to come and talk to you. I think that's what they're saying, but who knows? We'll watch it very closely. 50 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock. I want to tell you about King & Associates Insurance in Brentwood, been in business for over 25 years as an independent agency. Listen, I'm telling you, there's a real advantage to doing business with an independent agency like King & Associates. Number one, they're small enough that you're going to get great customer service. In fact, if you call their number, 615-329-8121, you won't reach a call center. You won't reach a computer. You won't reach somebody, a recording where it says, your call is important to us. Please stand by. None of that. No. You'll actually get a real person, a person who will help you and connect you with the folks who can actually solve your insurance needs. Multi-policy discounts are something to think about. Huge savings are available. So listen, why don't you just do this? Why don't you call this number, 615-329-8121, or just go to tkinginsurance.com to get your royal review. That's right, or they call it a royal review over at King & Associates. They will give you their best judgment, and they can save you a lot of money if you choose to bundle. There's a lot of ways they can save you money. Here's the other thing about an independent agency. It's really true. They don't have to try to push a square peg into a round hole. They can shop around and find the insurance that best actually suits your need. King & Assurance & Associates, royal treatment, great rates.
One of the big words being thrown around in the investing world right now is this one. You may have heard it. Fiduciary. The idea that the investment advisor has to keep your interest first when they give advice. Now, it's being used in a marketing sense right now, and one of the things that I found fascinating, there was a study by the University of Southern California and Indiana University. They looked at investment advisor portfolios, and they found that they were making basic academic mistakes in the management of their own portfolios. And the question that they asked was, if they can't even keep their own best interest first, how are they going to keep your best interest first? That was the question. Now, one of the things that we do at Paul Winkler Inc. is every one of our offices, 10 offices, is run by a degreed planner, number one. But we go way beyond the call of duty when it comes to fiduciary and making sure that we're using academically sound principles in investing. Evidence-based. In other words, a lot of this is backed by Nobel Prize winning research. To learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
An update on the wildfires in Maui. An interstate shut down for a time period today. We'll tell you why right here in Middle Tennessee. Plus some crime in Tennessee. A mayor in the volunteer state arrested over the weekend. We tell you where and why. 5 o'clock, Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
And after the news with Mac Maury, another exciting hour of the drive. We'll show you some polls that have Democrats freaking out. And, of course, it's a fan favorite. It comes at 5:25 each day. Mac Maury's Wide World of Sports.
Woo!
And, well, I wish we had better stuff to talk about, but we're still going to talk about it. It's all coming up in the next hour of the drive. It's 58 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock. You know, it's still nice enough to get out and do a little grilling, you know. Actually, I think this time of year is a great time to grill. And if you do so, you might want to get some of the flavorings that make the steaks over at Legend Steakhouse taste so good. That's right. We're talking about Fleeman's Seasoning. Take a walk down your local grocery store aisles. Places like Walmart, Kroger, look for Johnny Fleeman's very own brand. You'll see his fruit tea at your local grocery store, along with salad dressings and Johnny Fleeman's steak marinades. Johnny Fleeman's proprietary blend will give your steaks, chicken, or chops a flavor that will hit a home run with family and friends. It's low in sodium, about a third of other brands, and you don't have to worry about over-marinating. You can use this marinade to enhance almost any dish, your favorite rice recipe, fresh vegetables, just about anything. If your favorite grocer is not stocking Johnny Fleeman's products, ask them to do so. Just go to johnnyfleeman.com. That's johnnyfleeman.com. And it goes without saying, for those times when you want someone else to do all the cooking, they'll always be glad to see you at your nearest Legend Steakhouse for lunch or for dinner.
Five o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 87 degrees today in Nashville. Expecting a lot of the same temperatures, mid-80s in the high, mid-60s as the low, but could see some showers, possible thunderstorms come over here over the Middle Tennessee area between Tuesday night and Thursday night. Complete weather forecast, the latest traffic report, upcoming in 5 minutes. Residents of Lahaina on Maui are being allowed back into their neighborhoods for the first time since August's deadly wildfire that killed at least 97 people. Alex Stone.
For the first time, the people who raced out of Lahaina a month and a half ago are in waves, zone by zone, returning now. The last time they were in their neighborhoods, homes were burning, now going back to see what, if anything, remains. Volunteer medics are standing by to help if needed.
A lot of people haven't even begun to grieve yet. And so this reentry process is really, I think, opening the door to that. Folks can let those emotions move.
The returning residents are being told not to dig in the ash yet, to look for things like wedding rings if the ash has dangerous chemicals in it, but they get some time now to grieve.
Here in Middle Tennessee, I-65 South near Murray County and mile marker 39 was shut down for over an hour around 11:30 this morning due to a fight. Fox 17 says that it was between a man and a woman and that the man fled the scene once officials began to arrive. He was later captured and taken into custody. No additional information on this has been released yet. All lanes since reopened. And it appears to be happening. There is a date set now for a debate between Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom of California and Republican Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida. Alex Stone.
It had turned into almost an ongoing joke. Two outspoken, nationally known governors of two massive states who were polar opposites on the political spectrum debating each other. Gavin Newsom telling Fox's Sean Hannity,
I'm all in. Count on it.
You would do a 2-hour debate with Ron DeSantis.
I'd make it 3.
But it wasn't really clear if it was just all talk. Newsom and DeSantis had done a lot of talking about it. Now Fox announcing Hannity will moderate a 90-minute debate between Ron DeSantis and Gavin Newsom on November 30th in Georgia. The rules of the debate are not yet known.
Crime in Tennessee. The mayor of Burns, Tennessee, was arrested yesterday for allegedly getting into a fight with his girlfriend's child. Channel 4 says that 45-year-old Landon Sean Mathis was charged with domestic assault. The victim says that this started over payment for yard work. He said that a deal was made where he would weed eat the yard and then get $40 for his work, but Mathis wouldn't pay it. When he was talking to his mom about it, Mathis reportedly got up in the living room, grabbed him by the neck, and pushed him over and over again while he was laying down on the couch, grabbing his neck. The city nor Mathis has commented on this arrest. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hour number 3 of The Drive. It's 5:06 on Super Talk 99.7. We're so glad that you're here with us as we get you home. We'll drive you home, and we'll try to drive the liberals a little crazy along the way. It's our goal each and every day, giving you news and information you can use. So settle back in for the long drive home, and we'll try to share some stuff that we've just learned that I think you'll find very interesting. One of the things that I think I want to talk about more today is this set of polls that started to come out this last weekend. I'm on record. I've made no bones about this one prediction that I don't think that the Democrats, at the end of the day, will nominate Joe Biden to be their nominee. I just don't think that the power brokers will allow him to go forward, given how weak he is. And now we have poll numbers. Well, the poll numbers are so bad that they're causing the Democrats to, they're freaking out is what they're doing. These are freak out numbers. And I'm telling you, I can understand why Democrats would freak out, because these numbers are scary. They're scary. Let me run through the big one. The big one is the Washington Post ABC News poll, which says that if an election were held today between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, who would win? According to this new Washington Post ABC poll, Trump would win by 10 points. Now, wow, that's something we haven't seen. I mean, but really to get to, if there are other polls out there that say, well, here we go. Let me look at this. The Harris X poll, Trump wins by 5. The Harvard Harris poll, Trump wins by 4. Fox News says Trump wins by 2. But honestly, to get a 10-point, gap, the numbers don't have to change that much. So, is it an outlier poll? The Washington Post is even apologizing for it's probably an outlier. But I'll tell you, if you get a couple of more like this, it'll be over for Democrats unless they make a change. So nobody had predicted a gap that big, and this came out this weekend, and it really did start to freak people out. But everything in this poll is bad news for the Democrats. Here is Rick Klein discussing some of the things that are on the internals of this ABC Washington Post poll.
These numbers are simply staggering for the sitting president. 44% of people in this poll say they are not as well off as they were at the start of the Biden administration 2.5 years ago. Those are the worst numbers that we've seen in our ABC News Washington Post polling. It's a question we've been asking going back to the Reagan administration. When you dive into the big questions around the economy, we know President Biden has been out there trying to make the case. Unemployment is low. He's been talking about how inflation has been easing, but people aren't buying it. You covered some of the reasons why. Gas prices, food prices, grocery prices, and the like. Right now, on the big picture on the economy, 74% of the country, that's about 3/4 of Americans, who say the economy is either not so good or downright poor.
3/4 of the country says they don't like where the economy is. The president is out there. He thinks everything is just great.
When I came to office, this nation was flat on its back. I knew what to do. I vaccinated the nation and rebuilt the economy.
He rebuilt the economy. Wait, I thought the economy was pretty good when he took office. 78% of Americans think it was in pretty good shape when he took office. He didn't rebuild it, he destroyed it. And this whole thing about,
this nation was flat on its back.
Who says we were flat on our back? As there's an old saying, denial, it's not just a river in Egypt. The president is in complete denial, as I think most people are over at the White House. Okay, but so this ABC poll is bad. Let me just read you some of the details of it. President Biden's job approval rating, 19 points underwater. His ratings for handling the economy and immigration at career lows. A record number of Americans say they've become worse off under his presidency. 3/4 say he's too old to run for another term. And Donald Trump is looking better in all respects. And this is not good news for the Democrats. 44% of Americans say they are worse off financially under Biden than they were under Trump. The most for any president since 1986. Wow. Just 37% approve of his job performance, while 56% disapprove. On handling immigration, Biden's rating is even lower. He has a 23% approval rating on his border patrol, his border handling. In terms of intensity of sentiment, and this is interesting, 20% strongly approve of his work overall, 45% strongly disapprove, and the 74% who say he's too old for a second term is up 6 percentage points since May. Whew. Such is a down on Biden sentiment that if a government shutdown occurs at the month's end, 40% say they would chiefly blame him and the Democrats in Congress versus 33% who say they'd pin it on Republicans. So there you go. I mean, nothing in that poll looks good. NBC's poll has it as a tie between Biden and Trump, but there's a lot of bad news in that poll as well for the sitting president of the United States.
It's a simple question of job approval. Barely 40% approve of Joe Biden's performance. One big area, no surprise, it is the economy. Look at this contrast. This is April of 21, months after Biden took office. Nearly half the country was satisfied with where the economy was. Then, now, barely 1 in 4 Americans satisfied with the economy. There's also this. We found an enthusiasm gap between the two parties. We asked folks on a scale of 1 to 10, how enthusiastic are you about the presidential election? And you can see Republican to Democrat, there is a gap right there. Where's the lag for Democrats? We found a couple places. Non-white voters, you could see significantly less enthusiastic than white voters. And then how about this age gap? The youngest group of voters who Democrats have been trying to get excited and motivated, a nearly 50-point gap there. And the problem for Democrats, too, the lack of enthusiasm about the election, there's clearly a lack of enthusiasm about the president himself, because we asked primary voters on the Democratic side, do you want options next year besides Biden? 59% said yes, they do. This is not a normal number for an incumbent. What else concerns Democrats? And I think this gets to sort of the elephant in the room here. Biden's age and fitness. I mean, look at this contrast. We have talked so much about Donald Trump, the indictments, the legal woes. They are clearly a major or moderate concern to the majority of Americans. But Biden's age and fitness for office, almost 3 out of 4 in our poll. This is Democrats, Republicans, independents say it's a major or moderate concern for them. How about Trump? He's only a few years younger than Biden. A full 27-point gap right there. This is looming as a major problem for the president, too.
Let me go back and sort of pick up one thought that he had there about the level of excitement and engagement. Republicans have basically every time something has happened in the way of maybe more charges or another case brought against Donald Trump, it hasn't deterred them at all. It has only caused them to go up. The numbers supporting Donald Trump go up every time something like that happens. And I mean that is amazing, but it's true. So it says to me that Republicans and the people who support Donald Trump very enthusiastic about going out and supporting him. And on election day, that matters. If one side is enthused and the other is like, oh, I don't know, do I have to hold my nose and go vote for this guy? I don't think I want to do this. I just don't have any real joy or do I feel good about this decision? They are not as engaged. They're not as enthusiastic. And that could be a big difference in election day. What was really interesting in all of that is where Biden is losing. He's losing among black voters, Hispanic voters, and he's really losing with young voters. Young voters are done with him. I mean, they want to put Gramps out to pasture. And I'm telling you, I mean, that number, when you see it on the graph on the screen, it's shocking how many young people are express a lack of enthusiasm about voting for the Democrat ticket. So when I look at all of these things, I come back to my only prediction that I've made of the election season thus far, and that is I don't think that the Democrats are going to nominate Joe Biden. Somehow this is going to be fixed by the Democrat power brokers because, I mean, they're what they're saying publicly is not near what they're saying behind the scenes. I mean, they don't want to seem disloyal to a Democrat president, but I mean, behind the scenes, they are talking in terms of this is bad. This is really, 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 really bad. What are we going to do to fix this? We can't let this guy go forward. He can't be our nominee, or we're going to get 4 more years of Donald Trump. And they're worried about that. They're really worried about that. So I don't know how it's going to take place. I don't know how it's going to be engineered. I don't know how it's going to be all orchestrated, but it will be orchestrated. And I believe that Joe Biden will not be the nominee. The question is who? Not Kamala. Certainly not Kamala. She's in worse off a shape. I mean, there are those who would support Biden's reelection effort if he had a stronger VP, but he doesn't. And there's no way to get rid of Kamala without insulting large sections of certain strata of the Democrat Party. Women would be upset. African American voters would be upset if you were to kick Kamala to the curb. So I don't know how it all works, but I've never been more certain of anything in my life. I don't think that Joe Biden is going to be the nominee. I just don't. That somehow this will all be addressed by the power brokers within the Democrat Party. Because I'm telling you, if they're talking about it as openly as they are now, and there are people who are saying this is a disaster, we've got to do something, behind the scenes, there is a full out, that's right, a freak out. Just a good excuse to play some, disco music. All right. I got one more thing to throw in here. At the White House, this is being discussed openly during the briefing. And again, Karine Jean-Pierre, she just dodges on everything.
37% of registered voters, just 37%, approve of the president's handling of the economy. He's at a 56% disapproval, the highest of his presidency. And 74% of registered voters say they have major or moderate concerns about the president's age and mental fitness. How troubling is that?
Here's what we're going to focus on.
Well, it's really troubling, but she's not going to answer the question. We're going to focus on these other things. It's called a pivot.
We're going to focus on exactly what you just asked me, right? The first question, which is how do we continue to support the workers, right? We're not going to get into the litigation of the negotiations here, but what we're going to do is continue to show how much this president is working for American families.
All right. Well, good luck to you there, Karine. I don't think that's going to work at all. Look, folks, the big picture here is, Republicans are excited. Democrats are decidedly not. And Democrats are walking away from their nominee, and Republicans are walking toward their likely nominee, which would be Donald Trump if everything goes as it now looks like it will. Nobody is touching Trump in the polls. Nobody can come close. Although it's interesting to note that Newsom and DeSantis are agreeing to a debate in November. I don't know why, but it will run 90 minutes. It will take place at a place still to be determined, but in Georgia somewhere. Neutral territory for both men. So that'll be worth watching. I don't know. 20 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, if you have a desire to add some gold or silver to your portfolio, listen up. I want to tell you about Nashville Gold and Coin. If you're looking to buy real, actual, hold it in your hand so you can feel it, gold, silver, or bullion, let me tell you, this is the place I do business, and it's the place that I recommend. You'll get honest, friendly customer service and a real precious metals education. Now, they also specialize in the buying, selling, and appraising of coins, and you probably don't have any idea how much those old coins you have laying around the house might be worth. I brought in, not making this up, a few silver coins, had it in a shoebox, buried in my sock drawer forever. I brought it out, had them appraise it, turned out to be worth $1,652. So whether you're in the market to purchase precious metals or you just want to find out what those coins in your closet might be worth, schedule a one-on-one consultation today. Go to NashvilleGoldandCoin.com. That's NashvilleGoldandCoin.com.
Less than a week till a possible government shutdown. A Middle Tennessee high school placed on lockdown today, and 8 people hospitalized after a bumpy flight. I'll have those stories and more. 5:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, it's finally that time that we all look forward to each day. When they're lucky. Mac Morey is a sports guru, and we like to take advantage of that with a little thing we call the Wide World of Sports with Mac Morey.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport. The thrill of victory. And the agony of defeat.
The agony of my feet. That's right. It's Mac Morey's wide world of sports, and here is the host of our program. You know him, you love him. You can't live without him. It's Mac Morey.
Oh, please, stop. I'm blushing.
Yes, I know. Well, maybe we should stop after everything that happened this weekend. Well, let's see now. The first time we asked you for a prediction, you got it almost on the nose. Not so much this last weekend.
A little off.
I think you got one right. Like one half of the prediction.
Right. You're right. I guess technically you're right. One half. It was still kind of wrong, but the number was right. I said that the Titans would win 27-17 against the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland this weekend. That did not go as planned, guys. It was a bad loss for our two-tone blue. 27-3 was the score that the Titans lost by. Now 2 weeks out of 3 this season where they couldn't score a touchdown, man.
It's ugly.
Can't even get in the. It is. It's not fun to watch right now for Titans fans, for Titans supporters. You don't ever want the worst of anything ever in life. You don't want the worst, the worst cooking, or you don't want the worst, whatever it is. You don't want to be the worst. And in sports and in football, if you're the worst at something, sometimes you can get by. If you have the worst wide receivers, we have a great running back. You have a good offensive line. We have a good defense. You have the worst linebackers in the league. Well, you got safeties back there. You got some linemen up front. We'll get exposed sometimes. We'll make it work. But if you have the worst offensive line, it's really hard to hide it, man. It's hard.
And so, that's my question. I must say, I only heard half the show. I was, I was out in the car, and I listened on the radio on our sister station, but I didn't get to see it. But my question is this. Was it the O-line not giving him enough time in the pocket, not giving him the protection he needed, or was it Tannehill just unable to connect?
It's a little bit of both, but mainly the offensive line. That Cleveland defense, to give the Titans a little bit of credit, that's going to be a top 5 unit this year. I mean, that is a fantastic defensive football team on all 3 levels, both in the secondary, up front. They can rush the passer, which they did, 5 sacks against Ryan Tannehill. But some injuries on the offensive line for the Titans on an already really thin unit. It was, in a matter of just, you'd snap your fingers, Brian, and Tannehill's already getting swallowed up. He's having to run around. He's having to just fight for his life back there.
Yeah.
And it was really ugly. And then you mentioned, the running game, which is something that can give Tannehill a little bit of breathing room. A total of 26 yards on the ground between both Derrick Henry and Tajay Spears.
That's really a shocking statistic to me.
1.7 yards a carry, Chris. It was abysmal. And it started at the end of the first half too. The Titans are down 13-3. They're finally making a little drive. They're on the Cleveland side of the football field. 30 or so seconds left, clock winding down. And there's now 12, 15 seconds left. They don't have a timeout. They got to run this play. And, you want to get out of bounds. You want to, incomplete pass. You cannot take a sack. You don't have the time to clock the ball, and you just need to get a play in. Of course, what happens? The Browns get a sack. Tannehill goes down, and you just see Vrabel just frustratedly kind of waving his guys to the locker room. You couldn't make it a one-possession game. You had one chance to get down by 7 or maybe even down by 3 there, and you couldn't make it happen. And it's just, I want to say too little, too late, but there was nothing. There was nothing early. There was nothing late. It was too little in general.
Well, am I not right about this, Mac, that the offensive line is something the Titans have struggled with over the last several seasons?
Yes.
At various times?
I'd say since 2019, they haven't had really a formidable or respectable unit up front.
Compare and contrast that to the Dolphins over the Broncos, 70-20. What a game. I didn't watch that one either, but I wish I had.
It's like an NCAA match.
Yeah.
Fun stat for you on that, Ryan. Dolphins had 726 yards in that game. That is more yards on offense than the Titans have all season.
Wow.
There you go.
Wow. And Colorado fell out of the rankings. They lost to Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big wake-up call.
That was, yeah. They lost or Oregon. Yeah, Oregon took care of the Buffs. I mean, what was the score?
Right.
That was ugly. Yeah.
It was over within the first 10 minutes of the game. They were up three touchdowns, and it was like, okay, I'll turn to something else. I'm not going to keep watching this one.
And I loved
That's
it.
right.
Well, and that's right to the Oregon's coach's halftime. He said, "Hey, I hope everyone who was watching Colorado this week stays tuned. We're not done yet." He was fired up. He was tired of the Deion Sanders primetime show, and he showed it.
All right, real quick, there's a Taylor Swift update.
Yeah, Taylor Swift was at the Kansas City Chiefs game, and I'm obviously a huge Chiefs fan. So they were showing her. She was going on. She was sitting right next to Travis Kelce's mom. So Marty on meeting the mom face.
Wow.
Right.
Kind of crazy.
And they were seen together, I think, after the game. Not hand in hand, but exiting the game.
Exiting the game, and then they left in a convertible. They apparently rented out a restaurant and had a little party. So
wow,
I don't know, speeding up.
All right, I think it's on between those two, those little lovebirds. It's now 5:30 on Super Talk. Matt's going to put on his news hat now because it's time for the news on Super Talk 99.7.
.531, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 86 degrees right now in Nashville. Complete forecast. Latest traffic report. They're on the way in 5 minutes. Congress less than 1 week to approve a new federal budget and prevent a government shutdown. Andy Field with the latest reaction from the White House.
The White House warning red state Republicans that they will hurt their own farmers by cutting off critical loans if they don't okay a budget this week.
When we have a shutdown, Farm Service Agency offices in virtually every county of this country shut down, and those loans are not available.
Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack pointing out one of thousands of programs that would be frozen in a forced government shutdown.
And White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre blamed House GOP Republicans on this looming shutdown today. Right now, in the volunteer state, John Overton High School was placed into lockdown this afternoon. The threat has now been deemed uncredible by law enforcement. Officials say this all falls in line with other fake threats that the places around Nashville and the Middle Tennessee in general have been receiving the past few weeks. Classes did resume after a precautionary search had concluded. And 8 people were hospitalized after a JetBlue flight hit some severe turbulence. Alex Stone.
The JetBlue flight was heading from Ecuador to Fort Lauderdale when the airline says the Airbus A320 hit sudden severe turbulence. It happened during the cruise portion of the flight near Jamaica. It landed in Florida, where 7 customers and 1 crew member went to hospitals for treatment. The severity of the injuries is not clear. JetBlue says a plane has been taken out of service to be inspected. The NTSB will investigate.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
I want to talk about the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Listen, here's the number. If you have pain in your arms, your leg, your neck, your back, if you have a tingling in your extremities, that thing they call neuropathy, you need to reach out to the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Here's the number, 615-246-5009. They have therapies that can actually help you with all these things. I'm a patient of Dr. Kevin Mitchell over there, and I'm telling you, he's done me a lot of good. I think he can do you a lot of good. But there's something else that I want to talk about that's very important to Dr. Kevin Mitchell. It's a way to show your patriotism through the flying of our grand old flag. The Wellness Institute of Nashville is putting American flags back in our cities and town with something known as the Patriot Way Project. And already the Wellness Institute is responsible for having flown over 75 brand new flags. You can donate at patriotwayproject.com. That's patriotwayproject.com, or you might want to just make a visit over to their high-tech spinal facility in Mount Juliet and talk to them about it there. Listen, what they really want you to know is that when you visit the facility for spinal or knee treatments, they will be giving back to the community. So if you have all these problems in your back or legs, you want to reach out to the Wellness Institute of Nashville. And you be sure and tell your friends and family and loved ones about the Patriot Way Project, patriotwayproject.com. And again, the number for the Wellness Institute of Nashville, 615-246-5009. Learn more at painisbad.com. It is 38 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, and you're listening to The Drive. What's going on in the swamp these days, man? It's all about whether or not there's going to be a government shutdown. I will say this. If there is a shutdown, a lot of people are saying, well, who will get blamed for that? You know what? It sounds like there's polling data that suggests that it would be the Democrats. I mean, they control the White House. They control, the Senate. Republicans have 1/3 of the process. Now, it is Republicans that seem to be, unable to get the bills passed that would keep the government open. I don't know if it unable. I think they're able. I just don't think they want to. I think that there are some real concerns here, and legitimate concerns. Look, if there's going to be a shutdown, so be it. But here's what McCarthy is thinking, Speaker of the House. From the Washington Examiner. With 6 days until federal funding is set to lapse, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, expressing cautious optimism that he can wrangle enough members of his party to begin advancing appropriation bills and a temporary stopgap measure to avert a government shutdown this weekend. The Republican leader has acknowledged that it won't be without its challenges. The House is scheduled to take its first procedural votes to advance their individual spending bills later this week, a typically routine process that has been repeatedly upended by hardline conservatives seeking to take control of the appropriations process. McCarthy has conveyed confidence he can muster enough support to sway those holdouts whom the Speaker has expressed frustration toward for obstructing progress. Lawmakers will reconvene tomorrow evening to vote on advancing a combined rule. See, you got to pass a rule before you can move on to the actual legislation in the House. That's always the way it works. The combined rule that contains 4 appropriations bill, teeing them up for votes as soon as this week. Those 4 bills include spending for the Department of Defense, Department of Homeland Security, the Department of State, and foreign operations appropriations. After that, McCarthy said he hopes to bring in some sort of continuing resolution or temporary spending measure to the floor sometime ahead of the shutdown deadline, a move that several hardline conservatives have vowed to oppose. I note that Andy Ogles has been on record as saying if that happens, if they try to shove something down the throats of some of the conservatives in the House, that it might cost McCarthy his speakership. McCarthy criticized those members on Monday morning, noting objections to keeping the government open would only result in critical agencies losing funding. If people want to take the government, it only makes it weaker. If they want to close the government, it only makes it weaker. Why would they want to stop paying the troops or stop paying the border agents or the Coast Guard? I don't understand how that makes you stronger. I don't have to understand what point you're trying to make. I couldn't understand why somebody would want to do that. So anyway, there you have it. McCarthy says we'll do 4 appropriations bill and then a continuing resolution that would keep the government open while we work on the rest. I don't know if that'll get it done or not with the conservatives who have been against him on this. Remember, if you're McCarthy, if the Democrats vote in a unified bloc and Republicans, the Republicans vote, McCarthy can't afford to lose more than 4 or 5 votes. 4 or 5 votes, and the Democrats win. So, he's walking this tightrope. It's an impossible situation, I think. He's walking this tightrope between the conservatives who, on one hand, want to shut down the government. And I'm not saying that's a bad idea. I'm just saying that's where we are right now. They want to shut down the government. And then you got the moderates who don't want to shut down the government. And if you lose 4 moderates, the Democrats win. If you lose 5 conservatives, the Democrats win. You can't lose more than 4 or 5 votes if you're the Speaker of the House because the margins are very tight. So it's unpredictable exactly how this is all going to go. I'm okay with shutting down the government. I'm fine with it. These things always tend to work themselves out. And even if you shut down the government, it never lasts very long. Look, we have got to do something to get our spending under control. We've got to do something that does something about our debt and how much money we're spending. We're spending money we just don't have, and we continue to do it. And we keep doing it and doing it and doing it. And Republicans have as much to blame here as the Democrats do because you don't get some of these bills passed without having both Democrat and Republican support. So, I understand why the conservatives are saying, we got to make a stand here. Maybe it is time to make a stand, and I'm fine with that. I'm okay with that. But we'll watch it very closely. The process, we could probably get a pretty good guess about how it's going to go after this this test vote Tuesday evening, tomorrow evening. If McCarthy can't get the rule passed, then it sounds like we're in for a very interesting week up on Capitol Hill. Also in the swamp, Robert Menendez held a press conference today. A senator from New Jersey who's been accused of bribery by the Department of Justice. He's been charged with bribery and a whole bunch of other stuff. Found, almost $500,000, $480,000 in his home, gold bars. They've made charges that he was accepting bribes. He says he will not quit. He will not step down from the United States Senate. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy and other Democrats have called for him just to do that. The top-ranking Democrat won't call for Menendez to resign. Dick Durbin said bribery charges are very serious, but then he makes the case, well, there are others, the things that Trump did are they're just as bad. Well, Trump's not serving in the United States Senate. I don't, Dick Durbin. Senate Majority Whip said the recent charges were very serious. He said, you get a chance to prove yourself in a court of law. Well, that's true. That's true. In other news, let's see what else we have here. Oh, yeah, I wanted to play this about Karine Jean-Pierre. Wow, does she, she is like worthless as a White House spokesperson. She won't comment on anything. And honestly, there's a lot of things that are being thrown at her, very tough questions, because this administration is failing across the board. But she's just given up on trying to answer anything.
37% of registered voters, just 37%, approve of the president's handling of the economy. He's at a 56% disapproval, the highest of his presidency. And 74% of registered voters say they have major or moderate concerns about the president's age and mental fitness. How troubling is that?
Here's what we're going to focus on. We're going to focus on exactly what you just asked me, right? The first question, which is how do we continue to support the workers, right? We're not going to get into the litigation of the negotiations here, but what we're going to do is continue to show how much this president is working for American families.
Yeah, I mean, that's a nothing answer. Wow, I'm telling you, it's an interesting time to be someone who looks at the world of politics and comments on it each day. You got a president who is, according to a new poll, down to Donald Trump. If the election were held tomorrow, it would be 52% for Trump, 42% for Biden. I mean, that's what the poll said. It's a Washington Post poll. They say, it's probably an outlier. I don't know if it is or not, but you got that going on. You got the Republicans in the House fighting among themselves, conservatives saying that, they don't like the way McCarthy is operating the place, and they're threatening to kick him out as Speaker of the House. And then maybe a government shutdown somewhat looming. Not exactly sure how that's all going to play out, but it doesn't look good right now for getting that resolved in a fashion that keeps the government running. It's just, what a mess we're in right now as you look around that everything's in sort of a state of chaos. Chaos on the border, chaos in Washington. Everywhere you look, there is chaos, and I can't recall a time. I really can't recall a time where there's so much going on in the country that causes concern. This is one of the reasons why I say, look, I think people remember that, you may have thought that Trump was bombastic, and he may have irritated you at some time, but by gosh, you had money in your pocket, and the cost of gasoline was reasonable, and the border was secure. And I think many, many Americans are looking at the situation right now, and they're saying, I'll take me some of that bombastic. I'll take, some of the orange man, if he can just bring back the way things were. We didn't know how good we had it. It is now 49 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Hey, have you heard about lab-grown diamonds? Here's a word of advice. Don't buy a lab-grown diamond until you talk to my friends at Genesis Diamonds. Genesis will reveal the secrets behind this new product and make sure that you're protected if you decide to buy one. Genesis non-commissioned experts will teach you the difference between a natural diamond and a lab-grown diamond so you can make the smartest, most informed decision. One important fact you will learn is how some jewelers are grossly overcharging for lab-grown stones. There are some insane markups going on, and you need to be aware. For example, at some stores, they are selling a 4-carat round lab-grown diamond stud earrings at around $9,000. But at Genesis, you can get it for about half that price with better quality diamonds. That's at half the price. Bottom line, you need to get informed so you don't get a second opinion. So you need to get a second opinion. You need to be careful where you get that. You should go to Genesis. Genesis promises they are transparent. They will teach you all you need to know to make a smart buy, just like they have always done. Genesis Diamonds, your trusted advisor when it comes to the complex world of diamonds. Green Hills and Cool Springs, official jeweler of the Tennessee Titans.
One of the big words being thrown around in the investing world right now is this one. You may have heard it. Fiduciary. The idea that the investment advisor has to keep your interest first when they give advice. Now, it's being used in a marketing sense right now, and one of the things that I found fascinating, there was a study by the University of Southern California and Indiana University. They looked at investment advisor portfolios and they found that they were making basic academic mistakes in the management of their own portfolios. And the question that they asked was, if they can't even keep their own best interest first, how are they going to keep your best interest first? That was the question. Now, one of the things that we do at Paul Winkler Inc. is every one of our offices, 10 offices, is run by a degreed planner, number one. But we go way beyond the call of duty when it comes to fiduciary and making sure that we're using academically sound principles in investing. Evidence-based. In other words, a lot of this is backed by Nobel Prize winning research. To learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
Two security guards who shot and killed a man outside of a Nashville bar to not be prosecuted. Got an anxious time for families as some funding could go away if a government shutdown occurs in less than a week. Plus, a mayor of Tennessee, of a city in Tennessee, arrested over the weekend. We'll tell you what city and why. 6 o'clock Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
You know, you can say a lot of things about NASA, but I mean, they pull off some amazing stuff from time to time. Have you heard this story about the satellite that that made its way to an asteroid and then back to Earth, bringing parts of the asteroid back to Earth for NASA to study?
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
It was launched in 2016, and it took over 2 years to arrive at the asteroid Bennu, which is about the size of a small mountain, about 500-meter diameter, and they landed the NASA's OSIRIS-REx spacecraft on the asteroid. It stayed there from 2019 to 2021, collecting samples of rock and dust, and now it landed back on the Earth, the capsule with the asteroid bits in it just this weekend, and all of this for 8.8 ounces of asteroid.
That's still pretty cool, though.
But they're gonna learn a lot by studying the remnants of that asteroid, which have been brought back in pristine condition from outer space. 3.86 billion mile journey. That's something. It is now 57 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. You know, Grace Point Healthcare delivers medicine affordably with menu-style, transparent pricing. The idea is to know how much your healthcare is going to cost before the healthcare is delivered. Smart Care plans begin at just $69 a month. You get unlimited office visits, free basic labs for the entire year, and because they treat the entire family, even newborns, they offer family plans as well. In conjunction with a high-deductible insurance plan, this could save you and your family hundreds of dollars. At Grace Point, they take their time with each patient. They see you the same or next day. There are no long wait times or crowded wait rooms. They treat naturally whenever possible. It is a military vet-owned practice. Just some of the reasons why it's been voted the best primary care provider by Toast of Music City year after year after year. Now, they understand that some people are experiencing this new round of COVID. They have COVID testing and treatment. If you get COVID, they may help you feel better a lot sooner than you might otherwise. Grace Point Healthcare on Main Street in Franklin, 599-6868 to schedule a visit.
6 o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Currently 84 degrees on Music Row. Got a weather forecast and a traffic report headed your way in 5 minutes. This just in from Channel 4. Nashville District Attorney Glenn Funk will not prosecute 2 security guards who shot and killed an armed patron outside of a Nashville bar. It happened on June 10th when security guards Bakwandre and Kelvin Torres shot 33-year-old Patrick Charles. Reports indicate that Charles was arguing with someone and that he then fired shots, which prompted the guards to shoot and kill him. Prosecutors said the shooting would not be prosecuted because of Wandre and Torres. They were acting in defense of others when they shot Charles. In an anxious time for millions of military families and government workers who are worried about a possible government shutdown less than a week away, Agricultural Secretary Thomas Vilsack sounding the alarm about the potential impacts of a shutdown at the White House briefing today. Karen Travers.
Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack is warning about the real consequences for nearly 7 million mothers and children who rely on the Special Supplemental Nutrition Program known as WIC. Secretary Vilsack said there is a contingency fund at the Agriculture Department that might continue WIC funding for a day or two, and states could have leftover benefits to send out. But if there is a government shutdown,
what we would see across the United States is a denial of those benefits and opportunities. In some cases, it would be literally within a matter of days.
the White House says WIC serves nearly half of babies born in the U.S.
Crime in Tennessee. The mayor of Burns, Tennessee, was arrested yesterday for allegedly getting into a fight with his girlfriend's child. Channel 4 says that 45-year-old Landon Sean Mathis was charged with domestic assault, and the victim says that this started over payment for yard work. He made a deal with Mathis that was made where he'd weed eat the yard, then get $40 for his work, and Mathis then allegedly would not pay it. When he was talking to his mom about it, Mathis reportedly got up, grabbed him by the neck, and pushed him over and over again on the couch around his neck. The city nor Mathis has commented on the arrest. In New Jersey, Democratic Senator Bob Menendez refuses to resign days after receiving a federal felony indictment. It's Menendez's second criminal indictment as a senator. That first case ended with a hung jury in 2017. Now Menendez once again says he's innocent. Andy Field.
He says the nearly $500,000 in cash investigators found stuffed in envelopes and clothing at his home came from a habit from his parents' fear of having the government confiscate money from their time in Cuba. Democratic New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez insists he is not leaving.
I remain focused on continuing to do the important work.
Prosecutors say Menendez took the money, gold, and other gifts in exchange for helping Egypt receive sensitive U.S. secrets.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Good evening, everyone. 7 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Hour number 4 of the drive for this Monday. I need to apologize in advance if you're one of those who are watching on Super Talk TV, because I look a sight, and there's no other way to put it. I mean, we have this thing that runs on Super Talk 99.7 overnight called Red Eye Radio.
Mm-hmm.
But we have our own version of Red Eye Radio going on here today on the drive because, well, I got poked in the eye by a holly bush.
Why would you do a thing like that?
Well, I was out working in the yard, and, I was a little bit behind in yard work, so Cabana wife and I said, beautiful weather. Let's get out there and really get some stuff done. Well, we got a lot of stuff done until there was a 2-hour trip to the emergency room. But other than that, it was fine. No, I was with the trimmer. I had one of those hedge trimmers. I had a big old steel hedge trimmer, and I was out there just going to town on a holly bush. And somehow, I'm not quite sure how it happened. I didn't have my glasses on, which I normally always wear glasses. And a holly bush poked me in the eye. And
it was as you were buzzing it, the leaf just kind of flew off. And
I don't know what happened. I think I sort of leaned into the bush and accidentally got poked. But one way I was leaning way over because there were some things in the back that needed to be gotten.
Yeah.
And in the process of leaning up, I got poked in the eye by one holly bush leaf. And I kind of that sort of stung for a moment. Didn't think much of it. Went about and finished up the whole row of edges there and did all the trimming that I needed to do. But then I started thinking, well, it still stings a little bit. And I turned to Cabana wife, who was nearby. She was down in the flower bed pulling weeds. And I said, honey, take a look at my left eye. Does it look okay? And she goes, and I knew it was in trouble then, And I
didn't even have to say anything.
Yeah, it looked bad. And so it didn't hurt really all that much at all. So we made a 2-hour trip to the emergency room where I like them on a first-name basis with those people now. Mr. Wilson, your room is right this way. Please come this way.
Nice to see you again. Yeah.
No, and as it turns out, it's one of those things that looks bad, but is really not that bad.
Yeah.
It looks worse than it is, so they say. And they said, I had a small abrasion and what they called a hematoma of the left eye. And so it's ugly. And if you here, I'll just you people look at home.
You to lean in closer.
Look that way. If I look that way, you can see it a lot better. Yeah.
Well, the hat was kind of blocking it, but that's okay. That's fine. No, you don't need to. Well,
it's ugly. And if when I go anywhere now, I wear sunglasses because I don't want people saying, "What happened to your eye?" So I'm in sunglasses most of the time, but I can't read with sunglasses, so I have to take them off during the show. So all that to say, I apologize for my red eye, which looks a sight. All right. That's for the benefit of people watching at home. All right. Let's talk about the situation with the border. It is not good. Right now, yesterday alone, this is a number that nobody can remember there ever being a number bigger than. 11,000 migrants crossed into the United States yesterday that we know of. 11,000 in a day. If you got 7 or 8, it was a bad day. If you got 9, it's a bad day. But 11 is a horrible, horrible, horrible day. It's more than we are prepared to handle. There is a surge underway, the likes of which we have not seen, and it seems like it's not getting better. It's getting much worse. Here's this story from the Free Beacon. The Department of Homeland Security was aware that a large population of migrants was preparing to cross the southern border months before a near-record number surged into the country this month. Internal documents show, these are internal documents obtained by the Washington Free Beacon, but it appears to have taken no action to forestall the influx that has overwhelmed local officials across the U.S. Documents show that Mexican immigration authorities had seen a spike in apprehension since May, an indication that border crossings were likely to rise, and that federal agencies documented a large buildup of migrants on the Mexican side of the border at the beginning of September. The White House, which has struggled to counteract the surge of migrants that began when Joe Biden took office in January of 21, is pointing the finger at Republicans, arguing that GOP lawmakers in Congress are responsible for the problem because they have stymied the president's proposal for immigration reform. Oh, give me a break. Oh, my gosh, how can you even claim that? That's insane. I mean, you say, well, we asked Congress to do something and Congress didn't do it. No, they didn't like your plan. If it had been a good plan, a decent plan, he would have accepted it. But you said, here's our plan, our way or the highway. And the Republicans said, well, okay, we'll take it to the highway. We're not passing that piece of garbage. It's just unbelievable, how these Democrats try to blame it on us. I mean, if you want to say that there was a problem, where was the problem when Donald Trump was in office? Where was the problem? There was no problem. We had it under control. Now we don't have it under control. How is it the fault of Republicans? It's your policies and the lax border policies that you have allowed that have turned this into a nightmare situation, not only on the border, but in major cities around the country. The warning signs on the Mexican side came as immigration authorities recorded a record high number of migrants encountered in August. Customs and Border Protection announced on Friday evening, end of the day Friday when nobody was paying attention, that 232,000 migrants crossed the border in August, a record for the calendar year, and a nearly 27% increase from July, when it was already bad. There is little evidence the situation is set to improve. El Paso Mayor Oscar Leeser said Saturday his city is at a breaking point. Nearly 100,000 more migrants are traveling through Panama and Mexico right now with the hopes of crossing into the United States. So many migrants have illegally boarded trains that railroad operator Union Pacific temporarily ended all service in Mexico. That tells you something, doesn't it? Other than a brief reprieve in mid-May, illegal border crossings have continued to rise since the end of Title 42, a pandemic rule that allowed for the quick deportation of illegal aliens. The Department of Homeland Security says 1,450 migrants a month may apply remotely for asylum. The CPB One app through the agency has not honored its self-imposed limits. If you get on the shore, they're going to give you a piece of paper, and you're going to be let in. That's what it really basically boils down to. The total number, now stands at an estimated 7.5 million illegal aliens have crossed since Joe Biden took the oath of office. That's more people than live in the state of Tennessee, I believe. Can you check real quick? I keep saying that, but I haven't double-checked the number. But my memory tells me that's right up there with about as many people as live in the entire state of Tennessee.
Yep, we're 6.975 as of 2021.
There you go. So more people have come across the border illegally than live in the state of Tennessee. Wow. Just wow. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Border Patrol apprehended 151 illegal immigrants on the terrorist watch list in less than a year. That's amazing. 151 illegal. Those are the ones that they encountered. And hopefully, turned back or arrested or did something with them. The Border Patrol nabbed 98 individuals whose names appeared on the watch list in 2022. So the number is growing. In 2019, Border Patrol had no apprehensions of individuals on the terrorist watch list at the Mexican border. Clearly, the people who do not have our best interest at heart are doing everything they can to, get people through the border while the border is porous. People who do not have our best interest at heart are taking advantage of the chaos on the border. And of course, if you're an enemy of the United States, why wouldn't you? Hey, look. Guys, look, there's all this chaos down the border. Let's send in some people, and they can, we'll have sleeper cells all over the United States. If I were an enemy of the United States, that's exactly what I would do. And they are. And this doesn't include the people, the people who got away. 1.7 million people got away, had no contact. We have no idea how many people on the terrorist watch list are among that group. We don't know who's in our country. We don't know what kind of bad people are here. We have no clue. And it's all because the Biden administration put forth a policy that caused so much chaos and so on the border that 1.7 million people could come across and never have any contact with law enforcement. Dear Lord, be afraid. Be very afraid. And here's how it works. And I've said this before, but here's another story explaining it from the Washington Examiner. Mexican cartels are using immigrants to divert agents from the bad people in the drug smuggling. The head of the U.S. Border Patrol is frustrated that his federal law enforcement agents have been pulled from their posts guarding against drugs like fentanyl and dangerous criminals to process the tens of thousands of immigrants who poured across the border last week. Border Patrol Chief Jason Owen says it's not the job of the 19,000 Border Patrol agents nationwide to intake immigrants who cross the border illegally, but that organized crime groups in Mexico have done so to keep agents out of the field. I believe it's a money-making opportunity for the smugglers. I believe it's a distraction to cross other things into the country. Narcotics, fentanyl, bulk cash, weapons, people of interest, whether it be hardened criminals, gang members, convicted sexual predators. See, that's what happens. They overload the checkpoints. The Border Patrol is so tied up processing the people who came over and wanted to have that piece of paper so they could go across the border that they were unable to deal with the bad people who would come over later. Bad people. Drugs. The human trafficking. The humanitarian crisis is largely in these people who are coming across that we don't know anything about. And quite frankly, I think it's worse than we've been told. Mexican cartels have not only taken advantage of Border Patrol being distracted, but instigated the distraction in the first place, he said. Pulling agents from the field to process paperwork leaves vast open spaces for cartels to move criminals, bulk cash, weapons, and drugs across the border undetected. Wow. Just wow. It's so maddening, and it's so fixable. All that need to be done is allow the Border Patrol to do its job. And to shut it down so that nothing else comes across. Time to shut down this border, but I don't think the Biden administration has a clue. They want this for crass political reasons, and you are less safe in America today than you were because of the things that the Biden administration is doing for political reasons. It's so crass, and we're going to rue the day that we allowed this to happen. 20 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. You heard me talk about the Wellness Institute of Nashville. If you have pain in your arms, your legs, your neck, your back, you have this thing called neuropathy in your arms or legs, you should just call this number and set up appointment, 615-246-5009. Dr. Kevin Mitchell will meet with you. He'll assess your situation, and they will come up with a plan to make you feel better. Again, it starts with a phone call, 615-246-5009. Let me also share something very important to Dr. Kevin Mitchell, a way to show your patriotism through the flying of our grand old flag. The Wellness Institute of Nashville is putting American flags back in our cities and towns with something called the Patriot Way Project. And already, the Wellness Institute is responsible for having flown over 75 brand new flags. You can donate at the Patriot Way Project or just make a trip over to their high-tech facility in Mount Juliet. So what they want you to know is that when you visit the facility for spinal or knee treatments, this is also a company that is giving back to our communities. So if you have bulging or herniated discs, sciatica, tingling, the things that are causing you pain, call this number, 615-246-5009. And in the meantime, learn more. Tell your family and friends about the Patriot Way Project and learn more at patriotwayproject.com. It is 25 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on the drive. You getting close to home yet? That's right. Well, hang in there for a minute or two. I'll share some stuff with you that I think, that might make good dinner conversation. Here's one. Speaker of the House Cameron Sexton and Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally have sent out a letter expressing that they're putting together a joint working group. Now you say, oh, a blue ribbon panel. Yeah, well, no, I think this actually is a good idea. And what they're going to do is they're going to study the impact federal education has in and out of the classroom, the restrictions, the mandates, and the additional regulations required by the Federal Department of Education, and try to figure out whether the state could provide similar services without taking federal dollars. I mean, the idea here is we do take federal dollars in the state of Tennessee for education. But as always is the case, when you take federal dollars, there are strings attached. We want you to do this. We want you to do that. The mandates that come from on high from the Department of Education. Sure, you can have some help here, but you got to do it our way or you got to hit the highway. And so the question that I think that they're trying to find out here is just how much impact does that have on education? What kind of strings are attached to the federal dollars? And is there some way that in the state of Tennessee where they have a budget surplus and a little money that they could apply to the situation, what if we replace the federal dollars with Tennessee dollars so you could do with it as you please without the restrictions or the strings attached? What a great idea, to make us more independent when it comes to educating our kids, because clearly, Washington doesn't have a clue how to do this. I think it's a good idea. I love this idea. The bipartisan joint working group be comprised of House and Senate members, is authorized and directed to study, evaluate, analyze, and undertake a comprehensive review of federal education funding and its impact on the classroom, the curriculum, and attainment. Anytime federal government sends money, there are always strings attached to those dollars, and there's always a possibility that it opens the state up to other regulations or restrictions, said Speaker Cameron Sexton. The working group will help provide a clearer picture of how much autonomy Tennessee truly has in educating our students. Wow. Lieutenant Governor McNally says the education of our youth is one of the essential responsibilities of our government. Federal dollars and the various mandates and restrictions that come with those dollars affect the way Tennessee's children are educated. Due to our state's excellent financial position, this is a worthy subject of examination and study. Yes, this would not be possible in other states where we don't have fiscal conservative leaders who have left the state with a pretty hefty budget surplus. I would be of the opinion that, some of that money needs to come back to taxpayers if you're collecting more than you need. And I would like to have them explore that as well. But if you take some of this money and you release us from taking any of that federal money, which has all of the strings attached to it and has all of the things that the federal government wants you to do in the classroom, I think we would be better off. So I at least initially, heartily endorse this idea. Let's see what they come up with. Often when you have a blue ribbon panel, not much comes of it, but I think this is going to be different. I hope it is. And I like the idea. I support the idea. Let's get it done. Tennessee, 3 Tennessee cities rank among the top 50 best job markets in the U.S. You want to know what they are? Okay, we'll get into it. Top cities in the nation were ranked by employment, income, commute, benefits, affordability, and to determine the best places for those looking for the best of all worlds in the job market. Murfreesboro, number 7 in the study, as the city's income to housing affordability ratio was pretty good at 19.2%. It's how much of your salary should go to housing. That's good. The next best Tennessee town in terms of the job market is Clarksville. Congratulations, Clarksville, according to study, ranked 34th with an unemployment rate of 4.26%. with a median income of $60,686 and income to housing affordability ratio of 21.67%. Take about 20% of your salary to have a house there in Clarksville. Number 3, there are only 3, Chattanooga landed a spot on the rank, 48th. Unemployment rate of 5.96%, median income of $55,000, income to housing affordability ratio 21.86%. So congratulations to 3 Tennessee cities for being among the top 50 best job markets in the United States, according to Smart Asset. It is 30 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock. So how are you faring in this rough and tumble market? The experts at Beacon Capital Management understand, well, you'll see these numbers, they go up, they go down. It can be a little scary. But here's the thing. Beacon has a plan to assess where you are and help you make any mid-course corrections you might need as you head toward retirement. Wouldn't it be great to have a peace of mind that you're on the right path? Beacon can provide you that reassurance. It starts with a phone call to this number, 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon will take it from there after they get some information, and you have nothing to lose except for all the worry. So get started today by calling this number. Write it down, 615 488-9303. At the end of the process, you'll be able to rest easy knowing you have a plan that meets your retirement goals. Replace the worry with confidence that you're on the right path. Again, one more time, the number, 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon stand ready to take your stress away, and you can learn more at askbeaconnow.com. It's 38 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair and on the air for just a few more minutes before we hand it over to Mark Levin. That happens right after the news at 7 o'clock. So stick around. Got a lot of things to plow through here. This is a day worthy of note in the city of Nashville, Davidson County, as you now have your 10th mayor sworn in. That happened this morning at 7:37.
I, Freddie O'Connell, do solemnly swear that I will support the constitutions of the state of Tennessee, and the United States of America, and the charter of the metropolitan government, of Nashville and Davidson County, and that I will faithfully, impartially, and with fidelity, discharge the duties of Metropolitan County Mayor, without fear or favor, and for the public welfare. So help me God. Congratulations, Greg.
And as his first official act, he went out and ordered a new sound system because that was horrible.
Microphone's still at knee height for Mayor Cooper.
Oh, that's what it was. Well, of course, that explains it all. I mean, it's down there about his navel. You can't hear. No, there was no microphone on him at all. No. I mean, come on. Sound is so important.
Seems like someone would have thought of that. I mean,
Did you think to get a microphone? No microphones.
Oh, well, this one across the room will have to do.
Yeah, I guess that's what had happened. The microphone on the top of the camera is all they had. Anyway, that aside, this is from the Tennessean. Freddie O'Connell, you should know, and his daughters had a breakfast of donuts and blueberry muffins this morning, as it was a special occasion. He took the oath of office at 7:37, capping off a 16-month journey to the city's highest office. His two daughters and partner looked on with beaming smiles. It was an exciting morning, O'Connell said. It was very nice to start the school day in a way that still lets the girls get to school on time. But we'll go downstairs right now and get right to work. Davidson County Circuit, the person giving the oath of office, you know who it was? I didn't recognize him. I didn't look that closely. It's former Mayor Cellophane, David Briley.
Really?
Yeah, he's now a Davidson County Circuit Court judge.
It's understandable then why you didn't notice.
That's right. I didn't notice because, it's hard to notice that he's even there. A public inauguration is scheduled for 11:30 Saturday at Public Square Park, and I will not be there. O'Connell has secured his place as the 10th mayor in a landslide runoff victory over Alice Rowley, drawing wide support as the race's most progressive candidate. Oh, joy, oh, joy. Given a short 2-week window between his election and the transfer of power, he got off to a quick start preparing for the transition to office. Let's see. A day after he was elected, O'Connell announced a 3-person leadership team to oversee the transition. Oh, I guess how much transition is there? They were tasked on focusing on one of the areas, how Nashville works, moves, and grows. Those ideas, improving the government responsiveness, bolstering public transit, and effectively managing Nashville's growth, are all key messages throughout his campaign. Well, I wish him well on this, honestly. I don't want the city to fail. I don't want the mayor to fail. I don't have a great deal of confidence. I think this guy is probably a lot more progressive than any mayor we've had in a while. And so it'll be interesting to see how he conducts himself. In that oath of office, they said, that you would do it without fear or favor. Fear or favor, which means that you will represent all the constituents of Nashville, even those who disagree with you. Another thing on O'Connell's to-do list is deciding who in former Mayor John Cooper's administration will stay and who will go. He says that he anticipates Metro Finance Director Kelly Flannery will be leaving the position and that Metro Legal Director Wally Dietz will be staying. We will probably have some key staff announcements coming. We have some good folks joining us and some good folks staying. McConnell said that one of the biggest challenges faces is a tense relationship between Metro and the state, and he's going to try to work on that, he says. Okay, well, let's see how that goes. The 15 fixes that he hopes to make on day one. This is a big thing to him. He wants to see high school's time start later. I've gone through this whole debate in Washington, D.C., where they wanted to push the times for school start later. And what I find is, they talked about how it's difficult for kids. They need more sleep when they reach a certain age. And if you just can give them another hour of sleep or another 30 or 45 minutes of sleep, then they will do better in class when they get there. And I think, no, I tell you what you do what my parents did. I mean, all the time I was going up till I got up into high school, I went to bed at 8 o'clock.
Ooh.
I think, yeah, I know. My bedtime was outrageously early. And then when I got into high school, I could stay up to see the headlines on the news at 10, and then I had to go to bed. 10 o'clock. Well, if you had the kids go to sleep, and by the way, make sure they're not back there in your bedroom going on their phone till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, texting their friends and all that stuff. Well, then you have some chance of these kids. Hey, that give them enough rest. I don't know. I think again, I've seen the studies, and everybody thinks that that's a better idea, but I don't know. The problem is that you have 2 bus rounds. The same buses do 2 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
They do one to the high school, then they turn around and do it to the junior high and the middle schools and the elementary schools generally. So if you want to let the older kids sleep in, you got to get more buses. That's the way that works. It's always a problem. I didn't understand that bus drivers make 2 rounds.
Yeah, I didn't realize that either until I lived here in Middle Tennessee.
Yeah, that's the way it works in most cities, I think. Tennessee's first elected trans official. That's right. We have a transgendered individual that has been elected to the Metro Council. I'm sorry, excuse me. The first trans person to be elected in office in Tennessee is being treated as a second-class citizen, according to this story, and may be forced to use the male bathroom. 5 women, including openly transgender member Olivia Hill, were handed a sweeping victory on September 14th, winning all the seats at large during Nashville's Metro Council election, making the body majority female. However, the historic election victory is being overshadowed by an anti-LGBTQ law quietly passed in May that will make it harder for Hill to do her job and simply live in her state. She'll have to use the men's restroom. It was a Senate bill, House bill, which went into effect July 1st, establishes sex in all state codes as a person's immutable biological sex as determined by anatomy and genetics existing at the time of birth and evidence of a person's biological sex. What's most disturbing, the story said, they want to totally change this on this story, is the ambiguity of the law. A one-page document that simply states sex is now defined as anatomy at birth. I got no problem with that. I have no problem with that. So she'll have to use the men's restroom. Okay. 3 women arrested for allegedly robbing a train in Nashville. There's a train robbery in Nashville.
Stick 'em up.
That's right. Hey. Wallets and watches. Purses, ladies, bring it all forward. No, 3 women are in custody after police say they tried to steal items from a train. The train was basically parked at Watkins Park near there. There's a railroad crossing or a place where they have railroad lines. And according to the arrested affidavits, this is from WSMV, Metro and Nashville officers are dispatched to the railroad crossing at 17th Avenue North for reports of a train robbery and arrived to find a number of suspects with broken boxes outside one of the train containers. When the officers approached, they scattered into the wood line, escaping through an open fence. 3 women were observed getting into 2 vehicles parked parallel to the train tracks. And when they got over there, they looked in the cars and found stolen boxes that seemed to have come from the train container. And so those 3 ladies were arrested. Nakaria Anthony, 19-year-old Lemetria Scales, and 26-year-old Nicolette Buford. So I love this story, but it's, apparently they just used a railroad spike they found laying along the railroad tracks to break open the seal on the train car and then started opening up boxes and trying to take things from it.
By the way, I got word that it was sneakers.
Sneakers.
That's what they were taking out of the train.
An officer with the railroad company CSX estimated the total cost of the incident to be $23,000. All 3 women are in jail on a bond of $62,000. I mean, when's the last time you had an old-fashioned train robbery? Not the kind of, that you see in the movies for sure. That's
the
for
bandanas
sure.
and the 6 shooters.
That's right. No, none of that. We have a train robbery reenactment here in Watertown.
Mm-hmm.
It was I think it was on Saturday. So I was driving through. This is before the unfortunate Hollybush incident, and they're people on horses. They're dressed up in Western garb. They have shoot 'em outs in Main Street, and then the train comes in and they rob the train. The train comes in with tourists. Yes. Watertown is an important destination for people who want to ride trains to a destination. They come here, and then they put on a little show and rob them.
That would be a lot of fun. I would like to be a part of that.
Yeah, it seemed like I was down there another time they did this, and they're in character and they're walking around, talking about ornery this and no good that, and there's several shootouts that occur on the streets, and it's really quite something. By the way, Ringo Starr was here. He accepted an award. It was the Joe Chambers Musician Legacy Award over at the Musicians Hall and Fame Museum. There was a big turnout. I saw Vince Gill in the audience, and Amy was there,
wow.
And Brenda Lee, a whole bunch of people. Real quick, here's what Ringo had to say about it.
It means a lot, actually, because I have a love for country music, and doesn't get any bigger than Nashville. You know what I mean? So it's good.
It's 50 minutes now past the hour. StoltzCo.com if you're in the market for a pole barn. The two brothers that run StoltzCo are the two guys you need to talk to. Known for exceptional quality, craftsmanship, and fair prices, they can build your new pole barn to your specifications with your needs in mind. That's the StoltzCo difference. You can use pole barns for all kinds of things. It could be a classic tool or work barn, a garage, even a place to live. Flexibility is key. They combine the classic post-frame barn look with the reliability of modern materials and techniques to give you a finished barn that will stand the test of time. They don't scrimp on quality. They don't cut corners. They believe their customers deserve only the best. Now, if you want to get an idea of what they do, just go to StoltzCo.com. That's STOLTZCO.com, and you'll see some examples. And you'll find out this ain't your grandpappy's pole barn. This is something new. This is something better. 615-622-5992. Learn more at StoltzCo.com. That's StoltzCo.com. Stinky, stinky, stinky. Was that what it was like the last time you were at a repair shop? Smelly, greasy rags laying around, a countertop you would not dare touch. Another thing that stinks is repair shops that keep your car forever. They're not honest, and they don't call you back when they say they will. Was that your last experience at a vehicle repair shop? Well, listen, why don't you go to Eurofix? Eurofix takes the stink out of European auto repair. At Eurofix, you get a free 15-minute no-wrench inspection with an estimate at every visit. No high-pressure sales tactics. At Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. And never pay dealer prices. Eurofix now in Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belle Meade, and Mount Juliet. Call 844-EUROFIX. That's 844-EUROFIX, or visit myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com, and tell them Brian Wilson sent you.
One of the big words being thrown around in the investing world right now is this one. You may have heard it. Fiduciary. The idea that the investment advisor has to keep your interest first when they give advice. Now, it's being used in a marketing sense right now, and one of the things that I found fascinating, there was a study by the University of Southern California and Indiana University. They looked at investment advisor portfolios, and they found that they were making basic academic mistakes in the management of their own portfolios. And the question that they asked was, if they can't even keep their own best interest first, how are they going to keep your best interest first? That was the question. Now, one of the things that we do at Paul Winkler Inc. is every one of our offices, 10 offices, is run by a degreed planner, number one. But we go way beyond the call of duty when it comes to fiduciary and making sure that we're using academically sound principles in investing. Evidence-based. In other words, it's backed by a lot of this is backed by Nobel Prize winning research. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.